So, Tony, what did you say backstage before we started this just now?
Um, I'm agreeing with Bob Swede. What he said in the comments. This one's gonna make me cry too.
I think it's going to make us all cry.
Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, honor in the name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Vikings, run out the score. You'll hear us yell for more. V-I-K-I-N-G-S. Skol Vikings, let's go.
Well, I wanted to do this season. We all wanted to do this season.
Right.
For as great as this season it was, how it ended is, as we all know, how all Viking season ends.
It was a typical Viking season. It ended in heartbreak.
But it was fun.
It was fun. It was
So
very fun.
it all started with what just happened this weekend. It all started with the draft
Mm-hmm.
when we got the best receiver in the history of the NFL. In my opinion, I don't care what anybody says. Um, I don't care what anybody says that he's the greatest receiver ever because he actually changed the game. Uh, I mean, you still think Jerry's the best, but I don't. Um, so not only did they get, but they also they had some. So they had off seasons. The only addition they had free agency wise was Gary Anderson.
Jimmy Hitchcock.
They lost Dwayne Washington, Ron George, and Jeff Brady.
And they replaced
Um,
Dwayne Washington with Jimmy Hitchcock.
yeah. But was it Jimmy Hitch? Was it Patriots, right?
Yes, he was a Patriot.
Yeah, they got him from the Patriots, right?
Yep, he was a free agent with the Patriots. The Vikings spent most of their money that off season. They re-signed Todd Stussy. They re-signed John Randall, Robert Smith, and Jake Reed. They had re-signed them because they were all free agents. And Randall got the most. John Randall got the most money.
By the way, that is a great handle. By the way,
that is.
Is that you too, Evil? Did you change your name? But we got Sarah. We got No Stop. We got Mama in the house. Skull Mafia.
Yeah.
Got Bob, of course. Yeah, So the draft that year, they got Moss, of course. They got Kylie Wong. He was serviceable, wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Ramos McDonald was pretty bad. Kivusuma Mays. Kerry Cooks. Matt Burke was actually drafted as a tackle.
Yeah, he was drafted as a tackle.
Chester Burnett and the compensatory pick was Tony Darden. And then undrafted free agents, they only had two: Corey Withrow, which actually ended up having a pretty good career.
And Withrow actually played in the league for a while.
And the other one is Ryan Collins.
Okay. Yeah, Withrow ended up being a starter with us for about 2-3 years, I believe, under Mike Tice.
Yeah. Defensive coordinator was Foge Fazio. Andre Patterson, defensive line coach. Tom Olabadati, linebacker. Trent Walter, outside linebacker. Richard Solomon was the defensive back coach. Gary Zahner, I remember wasn't he our special team coach for a while.
Zahner was our special team coach for a long time. I think all the years that Denny was here.
And then Steve Weitzel, strength and conditioning, Jeff Friday. Mike Tice, offensive line,
Yeah, the offensive line was the best in the league.
and of course Brian Billick
Mm-hmm.
was the offensive coordinator. Now Chip Myers was the quarterback coach. Did he pass away the next year, or was it a little bit
He
later?
passed away the next year. He was named the offensive coordinator, and he passed away in the offseason. He went to a workout. He worked out, went to lay down, and they said he suffered a heart attack and passed away. And that's how Ray Sherman.
Oh, it's Young. Hey, Young, again, I want to thank you, buddy, for staying with me for that 7 hours on Saturday. I appreciate it, buddy. You kept me energized. You kept the conversation going. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So, I couldn't finish the show, but the boys took it home for me. So, but yeah. So the draft wasn't that bad. Coaching staff: Gary Woods was the president of the. Of course, Red McCombs. I think the team won in spite of him.
They just Red just became the new owner.
Yeah.
In the offseason, Tom Clancy originally bought the team. He didn't have the money. And then Red McCombs bought it. And he was the toast of the Twin Cities. And little did people know he was trying to move that team to San Antonio.
So the quarterbacks were Todd Bauman, Randall Cunningham, Jay Fiedler, and Brad Johnson.
Yep.
Chuck
Brad
Evans
started the season. He ended up hurt and was replaced by Randall Cunningham.
Chuck Evans, Leroy Horde, Harold Morrow, David Palmer, and Robert Smith were the running backs.
And David Palmer was just he was like an offensive weapon. He did everything.
Yeah.
Chuck Evans, rest in peace. He was primarily a fullback, blocking back.
Yeah, Leroy Hood was the backup. You know, you need 3 yards. You need 2 yards, I'll get you 3. You need 4 yards, I'll get you 3.
Yep.
Matt Burke, Jeff Christie, David Dixon, Everett Lindsay, Chris Lewinsky, Randall McDaniel, Todd Susie, Korstringer. Rest in peace, Big K77.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good
also
offensive line.
Corey, before the start of the season, had just signed an extension too.
Yep. And even after he passed, the Vikings honored that contract.
And the Vikings honored it, yeah.
Which they didn't have to, and his wife still.
No.
The wife still sued him. So I'm not going to judge her. She lost her husband, so you know. The linebackers. This was a good roster. No wonder why they went 15-1. Pete Bursich, Dixon Edwards, Bobby Houston. Like I said earlier, Keith Sama.
K-Mays, that's what we called him. K-Mays.
Yeah, K-Mays, Ed McDaniel, Dwayne Rudd, and Kylie Wong. That's a pretty good linebacking core.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reserves: Orlando Bobo, Tony Darden, Torian Gray, Eric Moss, Randy's brother, Anthony. He was on IR. Anthony Phillips was on IR. Mo Williams was on IR.
Did you do the D-line?
The defensive line, yes, was so that was just the offense. The defensive ends, defensive tackle, Jerry Ball, Dwayne Clemens, Stalin Collinette, Jason Fisk, John Randall, Ben Williams, and Tony Williams. Okay.
And the only star on that line was John Randall.
Yeah. So wide receivers, of course, Tony Bland, Chris Carter, Matthew Hatchett, Randy Moss, Jake Reed, Robert Tate, and Chris Walsh.
Okay. They got Bland on there? What are you looking at?
Number 18.
Are you looking at Football Reference?
No, it's it was Wikipedia, but he is also on Pro Football Reference.
Okay, because Bland got cut before the season opener, and that's how Randy Moss ended up with number 84.
Well, it doesn't mean that he wasn't on the. These were just guys who were on the roster at one point. It's not saying that he played any games or anything. These are just guys that were on the roster at one point.
He wasn't on the roster at all in 80. He wasn't on the roster at all in 98. He might have been on there like the day before the game.
Yeah, but these were all the players that were at one time or other on the roster. And then Greg DeLong, Andrew Glover, Hunter Goodwin.
Oh, the tight ends.
Yep. And then Antonio Banks, Anthony Bass. Wow, Anthony Bass.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Butler, Corey Fuller, Robert Griffith, Jimmy Hitchcock, who one play he'd get burnt like toast, and next play he was returning a pick to the house.
Yeah.
Remain Ramos McDonald, and rest in peace, Orlando Thomas.
Yep.
Wow, that's the practice squad was Brian Collins, LaShawn Daniels, and Chris Harrison. Ofenemy by Badejo. I remember that.
Obafemi by Badejo.
Yeah.
Badejo.
Yeah. So that was of course, Gary Anderson, Mitch Berger, Mike Morris, the superstar. Those were the special teamers.
Yep. It was not a bad roster. Danny got those guys to play. He did.
Yeah. And then
I gotta keep. No, sir.
So of course the kick and punt returners, David Palmer, Robert Tate, Will Williams, and Randy Moss returned some kicks that year.
Yeah.
Ed McDaniel, I think he led the team in tackles that year.
Yeah, he went to Eddie went to the Pro Bowl. He would have played if he wasn't hurt. He got hurt in the championship game.
Yeah. It was not. I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was not. I can see why they went 15-1 because it was not a bad roster. You know.
No. But if you had told me they were going to rattle off 15 wins, I would have said you were crazy. I saw at least 11. I saw him as 10-6 or 11-5. I didn't see 15-1.
Yeah.
Oh, Tony Williams, the lineman.
Yeah.
They called him John Randall Jr.
Yeah, that was the play before. Yeah, the week when Derek Ellis. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the Arizona playoff game.
Yeah, 98 was Cunningham, but he didn't start the whole season, Bob.
Mm-mm. But Brad Johnson started the season. He started the first two games.
Well, so Sarah, the Vikings drafted a kicker.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't.
Not over 9. I mean, 98 hurts less because of 2001 and 2009, but it still hurts.
See, I remember, I don't even count the Super Bowl years, but I still remember 75 and 87. 98's probably a distant third to those. I think 2008 hurt as much as 98 or 09, I should say.
Yeah.
And I don't even count the Philadelphia because we just got our asses just waxed in that one, so I don't even count that one.
So they went undefeated in the preseason.
Mm-hmm. And even in preseason, just Randy Moss going up against, second stringers, he was lighting it up.
Yeah.
So you knew he was going to do something come regular season. You just knew it. You knew it.
Yeah. So 28-0, 34-0,
Mm-hmm.
25-22, then 42-28.
Yeah.
So that was the preseason. So they were already putting up points.
Yeah. I was at the last preseason game, which was San Diego. That was the Chargers, right?
Yep.
And I was at the home opener, and that was Randy Moss. So
Yeah.
I actually went to a few games that year. But yeah, I saw the season opener against the Buccaneers.
So it says prior to the 98 season, the Vikings were sold to Red McCombs. The NFL had not been happy with the Vikings ownership arrangement of 10 owners, with none owning more than 30%. The ownership decided to sell the club. At first, it appeared that Tom Clancy would become the new owner. However, its attempt to buy the team fell through. So in July 1998, the team was sold to Combs, who was from, obviously from San Antonio. 98 was a year to remember for the Vikings with a spectacular offense led by quarterback Brad Johnson, Randall Cunningham, who had the best year of his NFL career, running back Robert Smith, veteran wide receivers Chris Carter, and explosive rookie Randy Moss. The Vikings set the NFL records, scoring a total of 556 points, never scoring fewer than 24 points in a game. The Vikings finished the season 15-1. Their only loss by 3 points to the Buccaneers in Week 9. 12 of their 15 wins came by a margin of at least 10 points. Man, could you imagine winning by 10 points? When was the last time that happened? According to Football Outsiders, the Vikings led the league with 52 plays of 25 yards or more. They had 22 offensive plays of 40 yards, and no other team had more than 16 plays at that length.
Yeah. They were an offensive juggernaut. The defense was susceptible, but when you're playing with a lead, you can.
Your stats are going to be skewed when you play with a lead by that much.
Yeah. Yeah, because the Vikings were behind in very few games that year.
Yeah. So the first week was against Tampa Bay. And this is when Tampa Bay was still in the Vikings division, everybody.
Yep. And Tampa Bay was good because Tony Dungy he got that team to play in. They were like Minnesota's only competition, Tampa Bay and Green Bay. They were both good. They were both in our division. So
yeah, so the final of the game was 31-7.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vikings got off to a 21-0 lead at halftime.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris Carter 1-yard pass from Brad Johnson. Randy Moss 48-yard pass from Brad Johnson. Randy Moss 31-yard touchdown from Brad Johnson. And then the Bucs scored on a Lorenzo Neal touchdown. Then Gary Anderson kicked the field goal, and Chris Carter scored on an 18-yard pass.
Yeah, first game, Randy Moss was telling you he's going to be good. He was telling you he's going to be the best.
They had 68 yards rushing in that game. So Tampa actually had 68 yards rushing in that game. They had 260 yards rushing. Tampa Bay actually outgained the Vikings in that game, 319 to 298. But when you score a touchdown, every time you had the ball and you score fast,
every time the Vikings got the ball, they put points on the board. Tampa Bay didn't do that.
Yeah.
Trent Dilfer was their quarterback too.
Yeah, and this was at the Metrodome.
Mm-hmm. It was September 7th of 98, right?
It was September 6th.
September 6th, okay.
Yeah, and then the top receiver was Randy Moss, 4 receptions, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Burt Emanuel was a Buccaneers leading receiver, 7 receptions for 98 yards. Robert Smith had 18 rushes for 90 yards. And Trent Dilfer was 17-25 for 207 yards. Brad Johnson was 15-25 for 189 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people thought the Vikings were going to be as dominant as they were the rest of the year, but that's a pretty dominant. Thank you, George. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, George. Did not expect him to dominate Tampa Bay that way because Tampa Bay had their number the previous 2 years. And Tampa Bay was kind of like that. They were one of those up and coming teams. So,
yeah, that's because they won the Super Bowl 4 years later.
Yeah, at 2002. They won it in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about 98 there, George. It was more than just a kicker. Towards the end of the game, just end of the championship game, Robert Smith not running out of bounds to stop the clock.
Well, I think they also had a chance to go down and kick another field goal, but Dennis Green sat on it.
Right. Yeah, you had 30 seconds and you had some timeouts. You should have just aired it out, took your chances
Yeah.
instead of taking a knee.
Throw another bomb to Moss. I mean,
Yeah, and our defense was gassed. That's another thing too. That defense we had was gassed.
what do you think of Bob's coming?
Oh Jesus. Jeez.
You got a lot of people disagree with you on that one, Young.
Yeah, he ran out of bounds 2 times. Yep.
So next week's game was the Rams. 38-31.
That almost went to overtime. We stopped Tony Banks short of the goal line. The final play of the game. I do remember that. That game almost went to overtime.
Brad Johnson was intercepted twice and eventually knocked out of the game. His replacement, Randall Cunningham, threw a late touchdown to Carter. Robert Smith rushed for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Rams stayed within a touchdown despite 4 Tony Banks interceptions.
Yeah.
A last-minute goal line stand by the Vikings sealed a 38-31 win.
Yep. Yeah, Tony Banks was you talk about quarterbacks that were bad. Tony Banks was
He was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Even when he played for Baltimore, he was bad.
Yeah. Yep.
So the Rams were in St. Louis by now.
Yeah, that was then it was called the TWA Dome.
Yep. 56,000 in attendance though.
Yep.
But so the scored was Robert Smith 24-yard rush, Angel Glover a 3-yard pass from Johnson, then Greg Hill 1-yard run. I actually remember Greg Hill. Gary Anderson field goal, Jeff Wilkins field goal, Robert Smith a 74-yard run.
Yep.
Then Greg Hill had a 4-yard rush. Eddie Kennison had a 71-yard punt return. Leroy Horde a 1-yard rush. Isaac Bruce an 80-yard pass from Tony Banks, and then Chris Carter scored a 19-yard pass to make it 38-31. Of course, he had the goal line stand that actually sealed the game.
Yeah, that game was close, very close.
Time of possession, Minnesota actually had the ball more. Of course, the Rams also. The Rams didn't have the Kurt Warner offense, but
no, they didn't get that till the next year.
Yeah.
Who was the head coach of the Rams? It wasn't Vermeil, was it?
Dick Vermeil.
It was Dick Vermeil. Okay.
And that was the late. It was the last 1:00 game. On that Sunday, the 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, bad coaching decision there.
Yeah, right there.
Denny ever made bad coaching decisions. That was one of his worst. Atlanta was. They got it that year. Everything worked out. And now remember, Atlanta and New Orleans were in the West with the Panthers, Rams, and 49ers. That was the NFC West. And yeah, they I think San Francisco got wild card that year.
Yeah, that was a pretty easy Super Bowl for Denver that year.
Yeah.
But then you had Eugene Robinson for the safety for the Falcons, living the Miami life during that week.
Yeah, what was he trying to pull a damn Darren Sharper? No, he got busted for trying to purchase it.
Yeah.
It's like, really, dude? Come on.
So the next week was at home, week 3, at home against the Lions. The Lions actually had a 6th lead in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the last time they scored.
Yeah, and Charlie Batch was Charlie Batch was rookie, and they started him at quarterback. Barry Sanders was still playing, and
22 carries, 69 yards.
yeah, Vikings shut him down. And the offense was slow because it was Randall Cunningham's first start.
Yeah.
So once it got rolling, though, it was the Vikings dominated. So
Well, it was 6-6 at halftime.
yep.
All field goals. Randy Moss got a 5-yard touchdown from Randall Cunningham with 11:41 in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Then Gary Anderson kicked the field goal. Then Gary Anderson another field goal. Fourth quarter, Leroy Horde had an 11-yard run. And then Gary Anderson 34-yard field goal. So there was only 2 touchdowns that whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an NFC Central / North game. Not a lot of scoring, just a lot of Detroit was Detroit. That's
Yeah, what they 0-2. They were 0-3.
0-3, yeah. I mean, that's just who they were.
Bobby Ross was the head coach.
Oh, the old Chargers
Georgia
and
Tech.
Georgia Tech.
Yeah, the old Georgia Tech coach, yeah. They had Herman Moore, though.
Wasn't he like a rookie?
Not sure.
No, it might have been his third year.
They had Rod Rivers and Barry Sanders as their running backs. Herman Moore, Johnny Morton.
Johnny Moore for USC.
Yep. Corey Schlesinger. And
Back, yeah.
CHRYPLEWICZ was their tight end.
Spell it again.
CHRYPLEWICZ.
Kripowicz?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I don't remember his name. Kripolich, I think his name was.
Greg DeLong, I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played in that game. Robert Smith did. Randy Moss had 10 catches. He had 10 targets, 5 catches for 37 yards.
Yeah, that was one of those offensive production days where there was no production.
But they still scored more than 24 points.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, they did. Oh, jeez, Bob. Oh my God.
Yeah, a lot of people liked Darren. A lot of people liked him.
Oh, he was very popular up here.
Yeah,
Which is weird because he never got. I mean, he must have not did nothing up here. If he did, he didn't get caught because he got busted in the other cities he was in, but he never had anything in the Twin Cities.
well, they probably weren't fighting him here.
No, they weren't.
It was probably consensual here.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But yeah, Greg DeLong had one catch.
I think
2 catches for 20.
He only had like 5 or 6 catches his whole damn career.
Yeah, 2 catches for 20 yards. He was definitely like a Jim Kleinsizer type of guy.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're 3-0 and they're looking pretty good. So the next week was another division opponent.
Was that Chicago?
Chicago at Chicago.
We were losing in that game badly. Chicago was beating our asses.
At halftime, it was 21-10.
Yeah, they were beating us pretty bad. I forget who their quarterback was.
Kramer.
Eric Kramer. Okay.
Yeah.
But they jumped out on us and then they took it to us. And second half was just a different Viking team. Different Viking team.
Yeah, they came. It was definitely probably the closest to games, other than the one that they lost to them actually losing.
No, they had one later in the year.
That's why I said one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
there was only a couple of games that year where there was any competition at all.
Right. And one of them they lost.
Yeah. So 31-28 was the final of the Vikings Bears. The Bears actually came into the game winless.
Yeah, they
Dave Weinstedt.
Wanstead. Yeah, they weren't very good.
So Robert Smith, a 67-yard pass from Cunningham. Bobby Ingram, a 33-yard pass from Kramer. Then Gary Anderson hit a 50-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bears, Chris Penn, 23-yard pass. Bobby Ingram, a 4-yard pass.
Chris
So
Penn?
21-10 at halftime. Yep, Chris Penn.
Oh, my God. I haven't heard that name in years.
And then the third quarter, it was all Vikings.
I know Glover caught a TD pass.
19 yards from Randall Cunningham.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, 35-yard pass. Randy Moss with 10-minute mark in the fourth quarter, 44-yard pass from Cunningham.
Yep.
And so the Bears didn't score again until 1:57 left. Ryan Wetnight from Eric Kramer. So
That's right. They had Ryan Wetnight was a tight end, I believe.
yeah. So the Bears had the ball for 33 minutes.
I think they won the time possession battle, didn't they?
Yeah, 33-26.
Yeah. Who are the Bears running backs?
So let me go. Roster. All right, so Edgar Bennett, Curtis Enos,
Oh my God, Curtis Enos. That's right. He was a Bear.
Ty Hollick was the other one back,
Okay.
and then Bobby Ingram, Chris Penn, Fabian Bounds, Ryan Wetnight, Alonzo Mays, and Robert Chancey were the receivers.
Robert, yeah, I see. I remember all those guys. Hey,
Kramer-
George, Jake Reed dropped off this game.
Kramer,
He got hurt the next week, and then he was out for a while.
Yeah,
And then, but also Randy all of a sudden came into his own. So that kind of,
well, Reed kind of got Wally pipped.
yeah, he did. Okay, so we played Detroit, we played Chicago. Did we play Green Bay that Monday night? The following Monday night?
So let me get right now. So of course the Vikings are 4-0 at this point. So then
Right.
after that, so their next week was Monday night.
Yep.
Both teams were undefeated coming into the game.
I remember they had a big build up to the game. I remember I was sick as a dog, so I couldn't really get into the game. I was married at the time. And
Maybe that's why you were sick.
probably, now that I think about it. And then
This
So,
is the one where the score was closer than what the game was.
that game was actually a blowout.
Yeah.
That game was actually Randy Moss basically on national TV in front of the whole damn country, and in a few foreign countries, just make the Packer defense look really bad, especially the secondary.
Yeah.
That game would be the start of the Packers drafting defensive backs number 1 for the next few years.
So Randall Cunningham and Randy Moss unleashed a passing clinic on Monday night at Lambeau Field as Cunningham tossed for 442 yards and Moss caught 5 passes for 190 yards and 2 scores. Moss also had a 75-yard touchdown reception callback due to a holding, which was not a holding. Chris, if you rewatch the game on YouTube, you'll see it was not a holding. Chris Carter added 8 for 119 yards, and the Vikings also intercepted Brett Favre 3 times. And this is why I'm saying the game was completely over.
Yeah, the game was.
Doug Peterson came in and threw 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
They also returned a kick for a touchdown. The Packers. They returned a kickoff for a touchdown.
So the scoring went Gary Anderson field goal, Ryan Longwell field goal, Jake Reed, 56-yard pass. Roll,
Was that Jake?
Roll Preston? Is that how you say it?
Roel Preston.
He had the 101-yard kickoff return.
That okay.
Randy Moss, 52-yard pass. Robert Smith, 24-yard pass. Gary Anderson, 25-yard field goal. Gary Anderson, 19-yard field goal. Randy Moss, a 44-yard touchdown pass.
Was that all in the second quarter?
That was all the second. And so basically, the Packers scored once with a 40-yard field goal in the 2nd quarter, and then the kickoff return.
Okay.
They did not score again until the 4th quarter.
They also had what happened was the Packers went for it on like 4th and short at like midfield, and the Vikings stopped them, and Minnesota turned right around and scored on that TD. And I think that might have been the Robert Smith screen pass for a touchdown.
Yeah, and then the Randy Moss touchdown made it 37-10.
Yeah,
and that was like a minute and a half into the 4th quarter.
Yeah, the game wasn't close. The score at the end made it close, but it wasn't.
It's because Doug Peterson scored with like 15 seconds left to Bill Schroeder. And Tyrone Davis, 11-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So it was
it was ugly for the Packers, and I loved it.
It was in the rain too, I think.
It rained that day. Yeah, it was a rainstorm.
545 total yards of offense for the Vikings. And they also got Favre twice for 13 yards.
Yeah, he had and Brett would either have those games where he would throw a lot of interceptions and still win. He threw a lot of interceptions this night and lost. He literally was outgunned by Cunningham.
And it's just Raymond Harris was the running back for the Packers, which it's kind of funny. It's like him and Edgar Bennett.
It wasn't Dorsey Levens?
No. Travis Jarvie, Raymond Harris.
Travis Jarvie, Raymond Harris.
Yep. And then the Antonio Freeman, William Henderson, Bill Schroeder, Robert Brooks, Tyrone Davis, Mr. Children in the bathtub himself, Chimera.
Chimera.
And Derek Mays.
I don't know how the hell he beat that one, but he did.
Green Bay.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we're now 5-0.
So so after this, so going into the next game, so after that game, the Vikings are 5-0. The Packers were 4-1. So then the next game was against the Redskins.
That game started out slow too for the Vikings.
Well, the Redskins were also winless.
Yeah, it started out slow. Matter of fact, Terry Allen came back and scored the only touchdown for the Redskins against his former teammate.
It was 41. It was Norv Turner was the head coach.
Oh God!
And 41-7 was the score.
Yep. I forgot he was the head coach of the Skins at the time.
Terry Allen, 12 minutes at the 12-minute mark in the first quarter. So
1 yard word.
They probably scored on their first drive.
You know how they scored? Randy Moss fumbled the punt. He fumbled the punt, and that's how they got the field position to score the first touchdown. It was on a Randy Moss punt fumble.
Let me see. Randy Moss. Which I don't know why he was returning punts when they have David Palmer.
But you know what? Denny would do that, though, because he did it the next year when he wanted a big play. Because he did that against the Chiefs, remember, Randy returned a punt for a touchdown. He would use punt as a punt returner.
Gus Frerotte was the Redskins quarterback, 10 for 26 for 117 yards.
God, so their starting backfield was basically the Vikings past, and that ended up being the Vikings in the future.
Gus Frerotte, Terry Allen, Brian Mitchell, Skip Hicks,
okay,
Michael Westbrook,
Mm-hmm.
Albert Connell, Jamie Asher, Stephen Davis, Stephen Alexander, Matt Turk, and Leslie Shepard.
Wow. I remember the names. I remember them not doing a whole hell of a lot.
So when you compare that to Randall Cunningham, Robert Smith, Leroy Hoyd, Charles Davis, David Palmer, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Jake Reed, and Andrew Glover, you can see why they lost 41-7.
Oh, Charles Davis was a tight end. I just remembered him. Yeah.
So
Yeah, they were just and I don't know if that's the year that Gus Farad. Is that the year Gus Farad decided to score a touchdown and then headbutt the wall? And
it was around that time. I'm not sure.
yeah, it was
because
because he, but he was kind of hyped too coming out of college, and he was one of those that ended up being basically just a career backup.
It was not a amicable or a good breakup with the Vikings with Terry Allen.
No, it's Terry became a free agent, and the Vikings weren't going to bring him back because they have Robert Smith.
He didn't take it well.
And Terry was on 2 rebuilt knees. So you didn't know how much longer he was going to play. And then here's Robert Smith on 2 rebuilt knees after him. So,
Yeah, that Redskin 2-yard touchdown was a 1-play 2 yards.
Yeah.
3-second drive.
Yep. I think it was the first play of the game. Their first offensive drive.
Yeah.
It was early, and the game was over shortly.
So the Vikings probably would have shut him out if they didn't get that.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was that Vikings defense. You would get a game where they were totally dominant, and then you would get a game where they couldn't stop nothing.
Because you would get them against the dominant teams, but against teams that had weapons, they looked not mundane, but they looked outmatched.
Yeah.
Compared to most defenses, the Vikings were small. They were small and fast, but that doesn't. Denny wanted a small, fast defense, but
Gus Farad beat out Jay Schroeder, right? Was that the guy? No, not that was.
He beat out Heath Schuler.
Heath Schuler. Yeah, that's right.
Yep,
They picked Heath Schuler. It was the whole Kirk Cousins, Robert Griffin thing. They picked Heath Schuler early, and then picked Gus Farad late. Same thing.
Yeah, if you think the Viking quarterback history in a few recent years has been nauseating, Washington's no better.
Yeah.
They're no better.
Once they lost the established guys, Theismann and Williams.
Once they lost Rippon.
Yeah, Rippon. Yeah.
After Rippon, and then they drafted Heath Schuler to replace Rippon, and he was garbage. He was garbage.
All right, so the next game is at Detroit. So they're done with Detroit by week 8. And that was 34-13. So
yeah, that was okay. That was Randy Moss being Randy Moss. Jimmy Hitchcock had an interception return for a touchdown. John Randall had like 2 sacks. And Robert Smith had a 60-yard run, 65-yard run, something like that. TD run late in the game.
He had so the scoring was Jason Hansen 47-yard field goal. He was a Lions kicker forever, it seemed like.
He kicked forever, yeah.
Jake Reed 11-yard touchdown from Cunningham. Johnny Morton a 1-yard pass from Charlie Batch.
Yep.
Gary Anderson field goal, Jason Hansen field goal, Gary Anderson field goal, Chris Carter 10-yard pass, Robert Smith 57-yard run.
57, okay.
And then Jimmy Hitchcock had a 79-yard interception return.
So Moss didn't see the end zone that day.
No, which was probably one of the only few times he didn't.
One of the few times he didn't.
But
Rippon didn't play for us.
He only had 2 receptions for 14 yards.
Wow, they shut him down.
But Chris Carter was 5 for 73. Jake Reed was 4 for 38. Robert Smith had 19 carries for 134 yards.
Oh, that's why we weren't throwing the ball because we had Robert Smith running it.
Yeah. And Leroy Hort carried it 6 times for 23 yards. That's such a Leroy Hort.
That's so
stat.
Leroy Hort stat. Jeez. God. Typical Leroy Hort.
Yeah. And then, they held Barry Sanders got 127 on us.
Mm-hmm. He didn't get in the end zone, though, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the Lions scored a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, they did.
Let me see. While I'm looking at the touchdowns, let me see.
Johnny Morton.
Morton got the quick one. That's the only one. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the Lions were 2-5, and the Vikings were 7-0.
Yeah. And Barry Sanders was getting closer and closer to retiring.
That tells you something about a franchise when your 2 best players in the history of your franchise retire early because they're tired of losing.
Yeah, it does.
And November 1st, 1998, the day that'll live in infamy. This is the only game I went to that year, so maybe it was me. I don't know.
So you're the curse.
Yeah, I'm the reason.
You're the bad luck. Jeez.
No, yeah, Mark Rippon never played for us.
No, Mark Rippon was never a Viking.
Yeah. CJ
Ham is still with the team.
Yeah, he could be used in that way, but they don't use him that way.
They never use him. And that's the NFL. They don't give the ball to fullbacks anymore. Fullbacks are basically just now your blockers and maybe pass catchers. I don't even know. You took what fullbacks used to be 1,000-yard rushers and big time parts of the offense. Chuck Foreman was a fullback, but now fullbacks are just accessories. They're just a blocking. They would rather replace the fullback with the third wide receiver. So that's just the state of football nowadays.
Yeah. So this is, of course, the first loss of the season.
Yeah, thanks to Catch.
The Vikings' quest for perfection ended as the work done, and Mike Allstott ran for 243 rushing yards and two scores. 2 Cunningham touchdown throws put the Vikings up 24-17 until Allstott's score in the fourth quarter proved to be the key to the Tampa's 27-24 upset of Vikings. This win was the third in 6 tries for Bucs coach Tony Dungy over Austin Green.
Mike Allstott played fullback, and how many yards did he have?
Let me go to the. I'm going back and forth between the two. So Mike Allstott had, because the Pro Football Reference is better for the stats. Mike Allstott had 19 carries for 128 yards. Ward Dunn had 18 carries for 115 yards. They each had a touchdown.
Yeah, and he didn't. Trent Dilfer didn't have to throw that much, which is good because Tampa Bay couldn't block John Randall that day. But I don't think Randall got a sack. I know he came close.
There was no sacks. No.
Yeah, he got out of it. He got out of a couple from John Randall, but John Randall harassed the hell out of him.
Dilfer only 22 attempts.
Yeah, he didn't have to throw. He had.
But Randall Cunningham was 21 of 25 for 291 yards.
Yeah, he was most of his passes were 20 yards or longer.
Yeah, and then one of his incompletions was a pick.
Yep.
So Jake Reed had 6 for 117 and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Randy Moss had 2 for 52.
Yeah. What did Carter do?
Carter was 2 for 13.
So he's the one that was shut down. And at that time, a team that had lost to Tampa Bay in the regular season never went to the Super Bowl.
Derek Brooks the pick was for 25. He had a 25-yard return.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ward done 10-yard touchdown rush in the first quarter. Robert Smith came back with a 9-yarder.
Okay.
Riddell Anthony, a 12-yard pass from Trent Dilfer. Jake Reed with a 40-yard pass from Cunningham. And then the Buccaneers, Michael Houston, 29-yard field goal. Gary Anderson, 44-yard field goal. Jake Reed, a 1-yard touchdown pass from Cunningham, and that was the last time the Vikings scored. 23-yard field goal from Houston, and then Mike Allstott with a 6-yard run. And I think the Buccaneers got the ball back again, but they kneeled it like in the red zone.
They stopped us on a 4th down. Brad Culpepper got a sack.
Yeah.
Culpepper got a sack, and they kneeled down and just ran the clock out.
And the Bucs could have scored again, but they didn't. They kneeled it instead.
No, Tony Dungy was like, no, I'm not going to run up the score.
Yeah.
So that's class. I mean, that's the way coaches were back then. Nowadays, no, them players, they're scoring.
Analytics says the score.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So, but then the next one was you would think the Vikings would come back from that and stomp the team they play the next week, but they didn't. They only won by a touchdown. They played the Saints. The Saints were 4-5, 4-4 coming into the game, 4-5 after. Vikings, of course, with 8-1.
Well, that's the game. Randall Cunningham got hurt in that game.
Ditka was the head coach for the Saints.
Yeah, he was coach for the Saints. Randall Cunningham got hurt in that game. He got replaced by Brad Johnson.
Yeah, Cunningham threw only 2 passes against the Saints, and Brad Johnson came in to throw for 316 yards and a touchdown. Sammy Knight ran back a pick. He threw Brad Johnson threw 2 picks. Sammy Knight ran one back for a 91-yard touchdown in the 4th. Robert Smith.
Did they have a kick return for a touchdown or punt return?
Let me see. Let me go to the other site for that. Saints scoring Aaron Graver 100-yard kickoff return.
Okay, I remember that because Pete Bursich was playing on special teams. Pete Bursich was blatantly clipped, and they threw a flag, and they thought it was coming back, but instead they called offsides on the Vikings.
Yeah, so the Saints scored. The Saints scored 3 touchdowns, and 2 of them were special teams and defense.
Yeah, their quarterback that day was it Billy Joe Hobart?
Billy Joe Tolliver.
That's a Billy Joe. I knew that much.
Even worse.
I knew it was a Billy Joe. I just wasn't sure which one.
Oh, this is the time period when the Saints were just trash.
Now, this is 2 years before they drafted Ricky Williams, too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a period there where they got rid of Mora, and and then they brought in Ditka, and
wow.
I think there was somebody before Ditka.
Listen to this lineup: Billy Joe Tolliver, Lamar Smith, Ray Zellers, Aaron Craver, Sean Dawkins, Keith Poole, Andre Hastings, and Cam Cleveland. God, no wonder why they were awful. Man, how'd you win any games with that offense? I think.
Did you say Cam Cleveland?
Cam Cleveland, yes.
Oh my God. And then they had Sean Dawkins?
Sean Dawkins, yes.
They must have just got him from the Colts. Now remember, this free agency was like new, so it had only been 5 years? 4 or 5 years of free agency?
Yeah, even their defense. I mean, Willie Roaf was their starting left tackle, so they did have one good player on it.
Hall of Famer, yeah.
Kyle Turley. So their offensive.
Mr. Turley, start a fight, grab your helmet, and throw it all the way down the field. Yeah,
that was pretty much the only two players they had on offense. They had Jared Thomas, Wayne Martin, Leroy Glover, Joe Johnson, Keith Mitchell, Chris Bordano, Mark Fields, Alex Bolton, Tyrone Drakeford, Chad Cota, and Sammy Knight. God, what an awful roster.
A couple of those guys did better with them.
How did they win 4 games up to this point?
Because they played Carolina twice a year.
Oh God, that is awful.
Carolina was not Carolina had that one good year in '96, and then they drastically
Well, their second year they went to the both expansion teams. Their second
to the
year went to the
championship,
championship
yeah.
game. Jags went to the AFC Championship, and Carolina went to the NFC Championship.
Carolina took a nosedive, but the Jags stayed pretty much level.
Yeah, because they had Brunell and Berline
They
as
have
their quarterbacks.
Brunell, yeah, and they had McCardle and Jimmy Smith as their wide
Yeah,
receivers.
the Panthers had Clausen.
Oh, jeez. Next. Next.
That's about to change, Georgie.
I hope it changes soon.
We got the McCarthyism.
I hope it changes.
I hope so.
Just one before I die.
It's getting kind of close, isn't it? Don't you get
Yeah,
one
in my case.
one in the
yeah.
grave and one in the other on the banana peel?
Yeah.
And the next week, they got back to form. The next game was against the Bengals.
Okay, I went to this game. All week leading up to this game, because Randall had got hurt, was Randall going to play? And if he didn't, they were going to start Brad, but then Jay Fiedler's name came up too. So, but sure enough, I think we got the opening kickoff, and if I remember right, Cunningham played.
Cunningham played.
Yeah, Cunningham played. Cincinnati. Who was their quarterback?
The coach was Bruce Goslett.
The former tight end.
And their quarterback was Neil O'Donnell and Jeff Blake.
That's right. They both played. I think Blake got hurt.
Corey Dillon was their running back.
Dillon was good.
Brandon Bennett. Eric Eat and Drink and Be Enemy.
Yeah.
Darnay Scott. Wow, what a bust he was.
Darnay Scott, yeah.
Remember when he came out, everybody was Darnay Scott this, Darnay Scott that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Darnay Scott, Randy Moss was what people thought Darnay Scott was going to be.
Yep.
When he came out. Brian, was it Milne? M-I-L-N-E?
Brian Milne, yeah, the fullback.
Carl Pickens.
Carl Pickens. Pickens was good.
Marco Battaglia.
Marco Battaglia.
Damon Gibson, James Hunden, and Tony McGee. I remember Tony McGee.
Tony McGee, yeah, he stayed with them for a minute.
Yeah. So Jay Fiedler did play, but Randall Cunningham started.
Okay.
Then, so the scoring, Randall Cunningham a 3-yard rush. And that was all the scoring for the first quarter.
Yeah.
The Bengals kicked the field goal in the second quarter. Doug Pelfrey, he was their kicker for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Rudd, a 63-yard defensive fumble return.
That was on a it was weird too, because John Randall got the strip sack, and here's the thing: I think it was Jeff Blake. He just stood there and looked at the ball. He didn't try to recover the fumble. He didn't even attempt to. He was just standing there, and Rudd picked it up and ran it in for a touchdown.
McCarthy was before my time, but I think he was, George. Right there. I think he was.
Yeah, some colleges.
Yeah.
It's a study in him and Eugene McCarthy. But yeah, that game was I went to that game, and we're Minnesota's the talk of the damn country.
Yep.
Especially Randy Moss.
After that fumble recovery, Gary Anderson a field goal, then Randy Moss had a 61-yard touchdown.
Yeah, he was the Vikings were the talk of the country, and so was Randy Moss.
So Moss had 6 catches for 99 yards. Carter was 7 for 87.
Mm-hmm.
Then Robert Smith 18 for 58 rushing.
What did Horde have?
7 for 52.
That sounds like Leroy Horde.
Yeah. Corey Dillon 21 rushes for 66 yards. What is that, like 2.7?
That's like a 2.6 yards. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
And now keep in mind, Minnesota was not the best. They were strong up front. They had Jerry Ball in the nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had Jerry Ball. You had Tony Williams next to him. Your ends were John Randall's playing end. He was playing defensive end.
It was 94, right, for Williams?
Huh?
Tony Williams wore 94 or 92 or 94. His Ball was 96.
Ball was 96. Tony Williams 94. Dwayne Clemens 92. John Randall 93.
Yeah.
Stalin Colony was 99.
Dixon Edwards. Wow.
Yeah, Dixon Edwards was they were 57, 58, 59. Rudd, McDaniel, Edwards.
So the Bengals defense was Michael Bankston, Kimo von Holfen.
Kimo von Holfen.
Was he the one that hurt Palmer in that playoff game? When he played didn't he play for the Steelers?
Yes.
The Clyde Simmons, who probably got from the Eagles.
They got him from the Eagles, yeah.
Adrian Ross, Brian Simmons, Takeo Spites, Raynard Wilson, Ashley Ambrose, Artwell Hawkins, Sham Shade, and Greg Myers.
Yeah, right. Rudd was from Alabama, George. Now, Takeo Spikes
Auburn
was a number 1 draft choice for those guys, and I think they drafted him in 98. They passed up Randy
twice.
Cincinnati did.
Twice.
Yeah, they passed up Randy twice. And I think Takeo Spikes was one of the players they picked instead of Randy Moss.
Yeah.
So
typical Mike Brown.
yeah.
But God, the head coach of the Bengals, oh my God.
Was Kostler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
he was the offensive coordinator, right? For Sam Weiss.
Yep. And before that, he was a tight end for the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals were 2-8 after this game.
Yeah. Matter of fact, Kostler was Bob Trumpy's backup at tight end. Yeah, so
the Vikings are back to rolling again.
Mm-hmm.
So after they played the Bengals, by week 12, they're done with the Packers and they're done with the Lions. The Packers were 7-4 coming in after this game. So they're 7-3 coming in to this game. The Vikings jumped out to a 20-7 lead at halftime.
Is this the Packers?
Yep.
From what I remember of this game, they hounded They hounded Brett Favre all game. He
was sacked 3 times.
Yeah, they hounded him all. John Randall was just there's certain teams that John Randall got up for. Green Bay was one of them, and he proved it. He embarrassed that offensive line all by himself.
Brett Favre actually had a pretty good game, though. He was 31 of 39 for 300 yards. He had 2 interceptions. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But like I said, he was sacked 3 times.
Well, and their defense, they couldn't. Defense had no answer for Randy. And
Randy Moss had 8 catches for 153 yards.
They had no answer for him.
I can see why Packer fans hate Moss.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget now, Randy, the last touchdown, Randy caught it and he basically pushed 2 defenders away from him, kind of bitch slapped him on his way to the end zone.
Well, it's kind of like his first touchdown against the Bucs. He kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
His very first touchdown. The Vikings didn't even bother to run in this game. They only had 16 carries.
No, because they could throw. Wait a minute, though. Didn't the Packers win time of possession?
Let's see. Let me go. Let me see which one is time of possession. Some of it's weird. Some of these games have time of possession. Some of them don't. Time of possession, 32 for Green Bay, 27 for Minnesota.
That's right. Yeah, Green Bay had the ball longer than we did. I remember that.
They also 9 penalties for Green Bay, 7 for the Vikings. But the Vikings had more penalty yardage.
Yeah, Minnesota got called for a couple of questionable roughing the passers, but Green Bay got called like 5 times for holding,
which they don't call on Packers anymore.
which they never call on them. You know,
Yeah, so the scoring was Anderson, 35-yard field goal.
mm-hmm.
And this was all in the first quarter. Then Jimmy Hitchcock, a 58-yard interception return. The second quarter.
Hitchcock had an interception return that game?
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot all about that. I know he had 3 on the year. 3 returns or 4. 3 or 4 returns on the year.
And then Gary Anderson with the field goals was 13-0 right off the jump.
Okay.
And then the Packers get their first touchdown 5 minutes in the second quarter. Tyrone Davis, 12-yard pass from Brett Favre.
Okay.
And then the Vikings scored 28 seconds before halftime, 4-yard pass.
To who?
Randall Cunningham threw to Chris Carter, 4-yard pass.
Okay.
And then nobody scored in the third quarter. And the Packers scored at 8 minutes 34, Tyrone Davis, 2-yard pass.
Yep.
And then 4 minutes to go in the fourth, Randy Moss, a 49-yard pass.
The very next drive, as a matter of fact.
So,
yeah, the very next drive. Right after the touchdown, Minnesota answered him.
Yeah. So the Packers didn't really have anybody who did anything. Derek Holmes was the leading rusher. He had 51 yards. The lead receiver, Bill Schroeder, had 7 catches for 93 yards.
Number 84, the white guy.
Randy Moss, 8 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay.
Chris Carter, 3 for 28. Jake Reed, 3 for 18. Robert Tate got 1 for 17.
What, reception or interception? Yeah. Okay. That's before they moved him to defensive back.
Yeah.
Okay, does it say who got the sacks for the Vikings?
Let's see. I'm looking at defense interceptions. It does not have who had the sacks on here. And I'm looking at Pro Football Reference. They don't have the sacks. Imagine if you look at a game log, it might have the sacks.
I got one right here. Hold on.
But yeah, it says interceptions and like fumble recoveries and fumbles, but it doesn't say sacks.
So get this. They had Rudd and Randall were credited with the sack, and then it was a team sack, which means it was more than 2 players. So that's when they say team, which is odd. But yeah, John Randall should have had at least 3 or 4 sacks that game. Oh God,
yeah. Rest in peace, Tavares. Man, there's a lot of man.
Yeah, T-Bass, I was there too. That was the day that he got his they put him in the Ring of Honor, and he had went into the Hall of Fame a month earlier.
Which one was he dating? Was he dating Chili or T-Boz?
No, he was dating T-Boz.
Because I think Left Eye was still with Ryzen, right?
No, Left Eye was with, at that time, she was with might have been Ryzen, but she ended up with Suge Knight.
Chili was the best looking of the 3.
Yeah, Chili was going between the dude that was their producer and Usher. Somebody else was seeing her too. So no, Left Eye was still with us then, George. She passed in, I think, 99? Yeah,
no, it was after that. It was after that, yeah.
Yeah, it was Ryzen. Yeah, she was with Ryzen.
Don't piss her off. She'll burn your house down.
She burned down his crib. I'm like, damn. Yeah, because Ryzen, I think, was out of. He was out of football.
Oh, they put Paul Krause in the Ring of Honor that day too, huh?
Yeah, because he went to the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Let's see. I think Lisa didn't die to the 2000s.
What are you looking for?
She died 2002.
She died a year after Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Yep.
She was at that stupid ass. My wife and I watched this thing on her. She was at some kind of retreat in Honduras.
Right.
And she was not wearing a seatbelt, and she got in the car accident. If she was wearing a seatbelt, she'd still be here.
Yep. I remember that.
Because they were actually filming when she was driving. They were actually filming it because she was doing some kind of documentary, and they were actually filming it. And you can see the car coming that hit them, and then the camera pans to Lisa right before the car flips. That's like the last shot of her.
Yep.
But if she's wearing a seatbelt, she'd still be alive. That's what everybody says about the accident. Because everybody else, I think everybody else survived because they were wearing their seatbelts.
And she had signed to death row.
Yeah.
She was signed to death row at the time. I think she went there for a retreat. She was trying to cleanse herself or something like that. That type of retreat.
The weirdest thing is the last Viking Tampa Bay game I went to, it was in Tampa, obviously, because I was living in Florida. They had Jim Marshall signing autographs.
Yeah, they used to have Jim and Carl come down. There was like a Tampa, Florida Vikings fans chapter, and they would make appearances down there to watch the games and sign autographs.
Biggest hands I've ever seen in my life was Jim Marshall.
He has big hands.
My hands are big, and it was just like a dad grabbing his kid's hands.
He had very big hands.
I'm like,
and
I thought mine were big.
And Jim, if you were like next to Jim out of his football equipment,
yeah,
he looked average. He just looked like your average guy. He didn't look like a football player.
Yeah, that was a good video.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. The 222s. Which,
by the way, Paul Krause was promised to have his number retired at the time. Red McCombs was going to retire his number right after Palmer left. But they ended up giving the number to, remember, Kenny Irvin, the defensive back? Yeah. So the number stayed in circulation and they never retired it. The same with Carl Ehlers. They were going to retire 81 as soon as Chris Walsh was done with it, but they kept it in circulation, and it's still in circulation.
I think they got to retire it after Harrison Smith, don't they?
You don't got to do anything.
I know, but yeah.
If you're going to retire, you got to retire it for both.
If Moss is not getting his number retired anytime soon, I don't see anybody can get their number retired.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody really wears. I mean, Oliver wears it, but were you really going to complain about Oliver not wearing 84?
No.
So
no. Well, you heard what Yogi's idea was, right?
I don't like Yogi's. As long as you're alive, retirement number. Then when you die and retire, no.
Yeah.
Once the number's retired, it should stay retired.
But then, if you do that, you run into the problem like what the Bears got.
Yeah, but nowadays, though, with the receiver lineman being pretty much the only players who really can't wear any number they want is offensive linemen. Offensive linemen have to be between 50 and 79.
Yeah,
they're the only ones who have that requirement. Still, everybody else can wear what they want. Offensive linemen are the only ones who have.
Well, I'm sorry, a 330-pound defensive lineman wearing 0.
Well, you know, Mark Ingram, who plays for San Diego, he wore 6 in college.
Yeah, so he's wearing 6 in the pros.
Yeah.
Well, Turner's going to wear 15.
Is he wearing 15? I thought he was going to wear 2.
No, he's wearing 15.
I know McCarthy got his jersey today, 2 days ago. Number 9.
He's wearing 9. Yeah, he's wearing 9.
And then Jim McMahon's like, then Tommy Kramer said, Tommy Kramer was joking about Should we ask Jim McMahon if McCarthy could wear 9?
Jim probably doesn't remember what number he wore. Between the alcohol and the CTE, it's a wonder Jim remembers his name.
Yeah, 22 should be retired for those two players. Number 22 and put like Krause's name on top and like Harrison's name on the bottom.
Harrison for their years, and then
We'll have the number font retire. Have 20 up there twice. Have the traditional 20 that the Vikings wore from 61 to whatever. Have that 20 for Krause and have the new font for Smith. That way you can tell who's who with the 22.
Well, yeah, you and me would, not the casual fan.
Yeah. Why? Do the Bears have a lot of retired numbers?
Oh, God, yes. Yeah, they do. They do. Because remember, they had all those players that George Halas coached. I mean, and their numbers that are up there. I know 42 is retired, 66 retired, 3 is retired. I got a list of their numbers.
What's his name's retired too? Brian, the guy who's
Piccolo's retired.
Yeah.
Sayers is retired. Butkus is retired. I don't think Urlacher is retired. I could be wrong. But yeah, they've got a bunch of numbers that are retired.
If they were going to retire numbers, it would be the 54 and 55. Lance Briggs and Urlacher.
If you're going to retire 55, you retire for Doug Buffone.
People would say Lance Briggs. But
actually, you know what? They say Otis Wilson.
Yeah. That's true. We're getting down in history now.
Well,
all you youngins, watch out.
Yeah, and Walter's retired. Thanks, T-Bass.
Well,
Walter's retired.
I think the NFL won't do it, or maybe they could do some kind of recognition. But like hockey, no one can ever wear 99.
Baseball, nobody 42 is
wear
retired.
42. NFL should do the same thing with 34, but they won't. But they should.
They should, yeah.
Yeah.
They should actually do it. I'll tell you who they should really do it with.
And there's some teams have 23 retired that Jordan did, like the Heat have 23 retired. Jordan never played for them.
Yeah.
There's a couple other teams that have 23 retired for Jordan, and he never played for them. So
the old number scheme was some of the numbers that are retired were from players that wore them in the 40s, which you could wear any number because.
Well, as a quarterback, you could be number 38.
Yeah, because Sid Luckman wore 42. Sammy Ball wore 33. So you could wear any when they decided to put that number system in, I think it was the 50s or the 60s, where they came up with the number scheme that say 1 through 19. There were no zeros.
Yeah.
1 through 19 was your quarterbacks, kickers, wide receivers. And so they had that scheme, but then they came up with a real league-wide.
Was it Paul Tagliabue who came up with the number system that they just got rid of? 1 through 19 was your quarterbacks.
No, that was Roselle.
But
that was Roselle.
But receivers couldn't wear 1 through 19. It was only.
But what happened was you had like Fred Biletnikoff wearing 25.
Yeah.
When that new rule kicked in, those players that had those numbers got grandfathered in.
Yeah. I remember Jim Jensen wearing number 11 for the Dolphins back when receivers couldn't wear that low of a number.
Yeah, and he
was a third-string emergency quarterback.
He was a third-string emergency quarterback, and he could also play wide receiver. He could also play safety. Yeah. He was on special teams.
Jim Jensen was fun to watch, man. Growing up down there watching the Dolphins, Jim Jensen.
Okay, now T-Bass, you're right. Jim Otto wore 00, and so did Greg Burrow with the Houston Oilers. But nobody else can wear 00 now in the NFL, and I don't understand that.
I'd rather wear 00 than.
I'd rather wear 00 than 0.
Because 00 means 100.
Yeah, I'd rather wear 00 than 0.
Well, Otto wore it because of his name.
Yeah, Otto. Yeah. Kenny Burrow looked good in 0. He looked like a wide receiver in the 00. It's all about aesthetics.
Well, that's what Tom Brady said about the number changes.
What?
It's harder for the offense. It's harder for the offensive team to identify defenders.
Well, yeah, because everybody's wearing the numbers.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
unless you, we'll put it this way, unless you're colorblind,
Yeah.
you know. If you,
Right.
I mean, you can tell. But some of your defensive backs got the build of linebackers. You don't have the aesthetic now like with linebackers.
Well, we have one. Metellus.
Yeah, he looks like a linebacker playing safety. And nowadays, remember when we played, each position had like their different shoulder pads. You could tell the difference.
Yeah.
Everybody wears basically the same shoulder pads now.
But Herschel Walker was different because his shoulder pads were so big.
Right. And then you had players that wore the neck braces, which the neck braces are different now. You could tell they're just players that just had that back in the day, they had that look, the aesthetics. Now these guys look like, some of them look like basketball players playing football. They ain't the most intimidating.
So, after the Packer game,
Came Thanksgiving.
46-36, and again, game is not as close as the score.
No. So once again, the whole country saw Randy Moss go off on a team that passed him in the draft.
It was 24-12 at halftime, and then it was 30. It was 39-10. It was 39-22 at the end of the third quarter. So this, like I said, this game was not as close as.
Oh, by the way, Deion Sanders didn't play in this game.
Oh, I rewatched. Okay, because I knew this show was coming up, so NFL Network showed this game.
Mm-hmm.
It said Green Bay Packers in the title, but it was this game. Deion Sanders was supposed to play.
Why didn't he? What was his excuse? I
It was
forgot.
a game time decision. He got to the field, and they said, "Oh, he's going to warm up and see if he can go." The rumor is, if it wasn't the Vikings, he would have played.
He got cold feet. He didn't want to get embarrassed by Randy Moss. Somebody needed to throw that. Somebody needed to say that to a damn interview. You be getting on these players in this college like you do. Remember that time you were supposed to play the Vikings and your ass got scared and decided not to play?
And then the next year, you couldn't get out of it, and he smoked your ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, come on, dude. Come on now.
Well, whatever, T-Bass. Yeah, he was hiding underneath his bed.
He was. Game time decision, my ass. He knew he wasn't going to play. He knew. He probably walked on the field. He looked at the guys warming up, and he's kind of like, "Nah, I ain't going to do this."
He would have done the Xavier Rhodes every time he got burnt. He would have acted like he got hurt.
Oh, he would have got the first pass. He would have got up holding his hamstring. He would have. He would have got up holding his hamstring. Yeah, because Deion couldn't tackle.
Deion could cover, but he could not.
He was a terrible
The
tackle.
only time he ever tackled anybody was when he would run them down from behind, and then he would either push them out of bounds, or he would dive and take his hand and like get their feet.
Deion got knocked out of a playoff game trying to make a tackle against Carolina. He tried to make a tackle. His ass got obliterated.
And then when he played for the 49ers, he made a tackle and he didn't get it up because of his back.
Right. Yeah, so he was, I mean, yeah, I'm not a big Deion fan.
Especially not now, though. Not with the way he's talking to kids who used to play for his program and the way he's treating them.
You don't say that.
I would not send my kid to Colorado right now.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be out of a job within.
So,
They give it 3 years.
And by the way, Deion, I don't think your son's going top 5. I'm just throwing it out there.
He's not going top 5 because guess what? Deion's already said he's gonna pick where his kid is going. Well, right there, the kid is fucked. Excuse my language, but You got
Deion Sanders is reminding me of the Balls dad right now.
He does. Yeah, he does. I mean, you're not helping your kid at all. And your kid still got to show me some things as far as playing quarterback goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know what, Deion, just shut up and coach.
Moss had Cunningham and Moss led a wild 46-36 win over Dallas. I mean, it was wild for the Vikings. It was not a wild game. Moss caught 3 passes for 163 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he also dropped one when he was wide open. That would give him 4 for 4. Carter snagged 7 passes for 135 yards and a score. Leroy Horde ran it in 2 more touchdowns. Torrey Aikman threw for a career high 455 yards and a score. To Patrick Jeffers and Emmitt Smith ran in 3 scores. Despite 513 total yards, the Cowboys could not keep pace with the Vikings. The game was also a penalty-laden affair with a combined 23 fouls for 230 yards. Just because the Vikings weren't taking the Cowboys shit.
Yeah, there was a lot of the Cowboys were just talking smack.
Yeah.
Who was it Cowboy coach Switzer, or who was the coach?
Chan Gailey.
It was Chan Gailey. Okay. God, Switzer was gone already?
Yeah, he was only there like 3 years. He won with Johnson's players. And as soon as he got his own players in there, the Cowboys started to suck.
Well, plus, I guess he was running around having affairs with the assistant coaches' wives.
Yeah. So scoring, Randy Moss, 51-yard touchdown from Randall Cunningham. Richie Cunningham took time out from acting to kick a couple field goals. Chris Carter, 54-yard touchdown from Randall Cunningham. Richie Cunningham, another field goal. Randy Moss, a 56-yard pass from Cunningham. Patrick Jeffers, a 67-yard pass from Troy Aikman. I believe that was a blown coverage. I think Hitchcock was the coverage on that one.
Yeah, it was.
45-yard field goal from Anderson. Emmitt Smith, 2-yard rush. Leroy Horde, a 12-yard rush. Cunningham, a field goal. Then Moss got his third 56-yard touchdown pass. Emmitt Smith, 1-yard rush. 1-yard rush. Leroy Horde, I think this was, if not the longest, but one of the longest rushes of his career, 50-yard touchdown.
We had that one a year later against Denver on 3rd and 24.
Yeah. And then Emmitt Smith closed out the game with a minute left to close the score. So
the game was entertaining as all.
The time of possession, the Vikings only had the ball 21 minutes, but they scored 46 points.
Yeah, because basically all Randall Cunningham did was chuck it up there and let Randy catch it.
Yep. And Dallas had it for 38.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas was kind of offensively challenged too.
Yeah, they had 455 yards because all they did was throw. 513 total yards, but they didn't rush the ball. They only had 58 yards rushing, so it was 455 yards passing.
Yep. So by then, because right after that game, Minnesota was the favorite to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They were the Super Bowl favorites. So they were already talking Minnesota and Denver in the Super Bowl.
Even Denver, I remember Shannon Sharp doing an interview, and he even said that, "Oh yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl, and I can't wait to play Mini." Because he called the Vikings Mini.
He called them Mini. Yeah, I remember that.
He still talks about that. He still talks about it to this day. That he's pretty. Obviously, he's going to say that he's pretty sure that they still would have won that game, the Super Bowl '98. But he says that the fans got cheated and we got cheated by having to play the Falcons.
Don't blame us. Blame Denny. Blame Gary. We should have been there. Do we win it? Hard to say. We went into that game.
Denver's defense was pretty good.
Yeah, and we went to that game with injuries because remember David Dixon got hurt.
Yeah.
John Randall was hurt. Eddie Mack was hurt. I think what's his name got hurt. Orlando Thomas. I mean, Leroy Horde got hurt in that championship game, so we were not in a good place, So it's hard to say.
I thought it was. I thought that was the third touchdown
That was his third touchdown.
because his first touchdown, he was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was 15 yards between him and the nearest guy.
Yep.
And I think the second touchdown was a slant, and he ran by everybody. And I think the third touchdown was the one where he
The sideline where he's
like
where
he faked he
tiptoed
was
down the
going,
sideline.
and then he ran down the sideline.
Yep.
It could I could have those last two reversed on that.
And then,
Thank you again, George. I appreciate it, man.
thanks, George. And then all those touchdowns, Dion was nowhere to be found because he
Yes.
was being a coward on the sideline.
I like that quality over quantity, just like this year's draft with the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I hope JJ. I hope he's the answer. I really do.
Well, if he's
really,
not,
really
if
do.
he's not, we're going to just be looking for the next one. I mean, we're kind of putting a lot on the kid as fans, but we hope he's the answer.
KOC said no matter how bad Sam Darnold is playing, that he is not going to rush JJ out there. So I don't know if the Wilfs were like, we understand this is a rebuilding year. Just whatever happens, happens. He has no pressure. But
Okay, first of all, don't listen to the Wilfs. Because, first of all, the Wilfs have already set Kwesi and KOC 2 years back by having to deal with Kirk Cousins. And they've only got 2 more years left on their contract. So guess what? They need to do it now.
well, the Jets actually deserved to win the championship in '69. 68.
Did they? Really?
I watched a story on 68. They paid by getting Joe Namath. He got that Kelly Green Lincoln Continental convertible.
Yeah, but they
And
got okay.
And they also outbid the
They outbid the
NFL.
Cardinals, which wasn't
Yeah.
hard. It was the Bidwells. But I mean, did they really?
Good night, Mama.
Did they really? Good night, Mom. Did they really deserve it over the Colts? The Colts. Did they really deserve it over the Baltimore Colts, who, believe it or not, at one time were really America's team?
I mean,
Really? Come on.
they didn't win that game because of Joe Namath, by the way, either.
No, they won that game because
Yeah,
Earl Morrow looked horrible.
yeah,
Yeah, they won that game because Earl
yeah.
Morrow.
I agree, Young. The Bucks started off as a really dysfunctional franchise. When they've been stable since the Glazers have taken over.
Part of that stability, they would have been okay if Doug Williams had stuck around too.
Yeah,
When Doug
or
left,
Steve Young.
or Steve Young.
The Saints had to cheat.
The Saints were horrible till the 80s when the USFL folded and they got all those players and
Right.
Jim Mora.
Well, not only that, but the Saints
Oh.
cheated.
Jim Finks.
Yeah,
Jim Finks.
the guy who started the Vikings turned
And the Bears.
in the Bears. Yeah,
And he
turned
did it for the Cubs.
the Bears. The 85 Bears team. Jim Finks.
That was built by Jim Finks. That playoff team that the Vikings played in 87, that was built by Jim Finks. The guy
Yeah,
knew,
T-Bass, I agree.
I don't think Sam's gonna play bad either. I don't think he is either.
Yeah, I still this kicker could be the best Vikings kicker ever.
Yeah, right.
I still think it's a waste drafting a pick on a kicker.
He's a kicker. Next.
That's just my opinion. You guys can like it all you want. He can be the best kicker ever. We thought Blair Walsh was the best kicker ever.
No, you thought Blair Walsh was the best kicker ever. I'm like, he's a kicker. Next.
So
I don't trust kickers.
to be honest with you, I was
It
a year
is.
and a half.
It
I
is.
I was not even a year and a half because I was born in August of 75.
It's almost like Christmas, especially if you're a sports fan.
Yeah.
Your team is in the biggest game of the year. and just the heartbreak afterwards. But
I thought it was it Jim McKay who was the coach of the Bucks, or was it Don McKay?
John McKay.
Yeah. So what do you think about your team's execution? I'm all for it.
He wasn't lying. They were bad. They were bad. My God. I bet if you could put that team in the front of a firing squad, he would do it because they were bad. Oh my God. They were
What are you
horrible.
talking about? The orange sickle uniforms are awesome.
Those are the best.
Uniforms. I love those uniforms.
Yeah, they need to make those permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everybody got so excited when they're getting rid of those ugly alarm clock uniforms. They're going back to what they used to look like before. No, they just went back to.
They went back to the pewter.
Yeah,
they went back to the pewter, which I mean that's growing on me, but I like the orange sickle. The orange sickle.
Yeah, I love the orange creamsicle uniforms, especially the helmets.
The helmets were
if
classic.
they put like the new logo colors, if they put like the new logo and the orange cream sickle uniform,
the color scheme in that orange sickle color scheme,
it would look even better.
Yeah,
it would look even better instead of what is it? Errol, who was that?
It's supposed to be Errol Flynn.
Errol Flynn. Yeah,
mm-hmm. They call him Bucko Bruce, but it's supposed to be Errol Flynn.
Yeah. We have a bottom 5 record, but Darnold Bell's out. We get a top 5 pick, trade down, franchise a trade. Darnold he only signed a 1-year contract.
Signed a 1-year contract.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end of the Vikings.
And Madden knew it. He even said that Viking team, they're as good as they were just too old.
That was probably the one time you could truly say that the Vikings lost to a better team.
Yeah.
Was against the Raiders.
Yep.
Because the other 3 teams they should have beat.
The Vikings should have been in there in 75. They go in 75, they might win it. They might beat the Steelers. The Steelers were not much better than the Vikings.
No.
Especially not that year. What happens if Darnold wins the Super
that dude will never have to buy a drink or dinner in Cincinnati.
Yeah, he can live here rent free wherever he wants, and he'll have a harem.
Right. Yeah.
No, the one you're thinking of, T-Bass, was Joe Delaney in Kansas City. He's the one that drowned saving the kids. Ricky Bell was the running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he got an injury. He
wasn't even the best. He wasn't even the best running back in Bucs history. James Wilder was the best running back in Bucs history.
What happened was Ricky Bell got sick, and he passed away in 84. Yep. Well, no, because if you franchise tag him, you have to pay him. Oh, for God's sakes! Is that if we win a Super Bowl, or are you just going to do that? I hope we win a Super Bowl. That way, you can tell the.
I've only cried like 4 times in my life, right? A couple weeks ago, when my dog Pepsi died,
mm-hmm.
And probably 12 years ago before that, when my other dog died, when my brother died, and my grandma. Pretty much it. If the Vikings win the Super Bowl, I'll probably cry.
I will be in a state
I will probably get shot by my crazy neighbors because I'm running around the street like a damn crazed maniac.
The Vikings win a Super Bowl, I will first be in shock, and then it'll hit me after so many years. We finally got that.
I'm calling in sick the next day. I can tell you that much.
And then I will be that annoying fan that calls up everybody and says, "Who won the Super Bowl? Who won the Super Bowl?" And I'll do that like every day.
Hey, Packer fans, what are you going to say now? You can no longer say empty trophy case.
Yeah.
We have an empty trophy case because you fuckers have our championship trophy. Well, you can't keep this one.
Yeah. So, and all you can say is, so what? We got 3 others. It's like, yeah, we'll dust them off. Ours is newer.
Well, there's people alive today, Cowboys fans, who have never seen a Cowboys Super Bowl, and that makes me happy. Like my nephew has never seen the Cowboys win a championship, and that makes me happy.
That makes me.
And my nephew is 20. My nephew's 23, 24.
Oh my God, that's right. They haven't been to a Super Bowl since '95.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's been like a whole generation that was born
Yes.
after that. Oh my.
I will be getting banned from YouTube. I will be getting banned from NFL, the XM Series XM NFL. That you can't, dude.
Oh, I'm gonna be
Miller
heated.
And Pat Crow will be like, you can't call.
I am gonna be hated. I'm gonna be hated. That's all I got to say. You know, and I'm gonna be like, I don't care if my team finally won a Super Bowl. Deal with it, you
We'll be like
effers.
the Eagles fans when they won. We won't be as violent, but we'll be like the Eagles fans.
Oh, we're tipping. We fucking up some shit here in Minneapolis. That's all there is.
You know what I would love is I would love for the Falcons to have paid Kirk Cousins all that money.
Oh, do not say no, dude. Do not no. Oh God.
He can't start the season like you
Oh
said.
God.
And Penix plays good. So they won't even have the benefit of a quarterback on a rookie contract.
Okay, you know what? If this is actually happens, will you all pray for me, please? Because I'm really gonna hear about it. I'm really gonna hear about it. My God, am I gonna hear about it? Oh.
You're probably more of a football fan, but I can tell you right now, if the Twins won the World Series,
When I tell you what, when the Twins won the World Series, and I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but what it did was it kind of took that monkey off your back as far as the whole city. The Twins, one of these Minnesota teams, finally won a
it
championship.
could be the T-Wolves this year.
If it's the T-Wolves oh my God.
Well, the T-Wolves would be the Bucks, the Saints. It'd be one of those, team that's always trash, but they have
a team that's always trash, and then they finally put it together.
Yeah.
Well, put it this way: if they,
Glenn Taylor's like, wow, this team is good. No sale.
I saw that. He's in court. He was in court today about that. Oh, he's in litigation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in litigation. Well, he said that he didn't want to sell the team because he didn't trust A-Rod and Lori to not move the team.
Yeah.
That's why he did not give it to them. Yeah, the Twins won 10 in a row, but the White Sox are just bad.
But they did win 3. They did sweep the Rays before the series.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think Buxton got hurt again, though.
Buxton got hurt again.
Oh,
that was the thing, though, is the Twins were playing bad, but
it started the season.
You can't win when you have 3 of your top 4 players hurt. There ain't no team's going to be good.
Yep.
Being a Mavs fan. Well, you got your ring, though. See, that's the thing, though, is that when people are like they're just Viking fans, but let's say they're like D Woods, he's a Lakers fan, right? He's also a Vikings fan. Yeah, his NFL team hasn't won, but look at his success his basketball team has.
Yeah, thanks to Minneapolis.
Or you're a Vikings fan, or you're a Yankee, and your baseball team's the Yankees, right? But when all your teams are Minnesota teams,
the hurt is real.
Yeah.
The pain is real. It is. It's real. We've had, besides only other pro team to win besides the Twins was the Lynx and
right.
WNBA.
It was nice to see a team from Minnesota win, even though it's WNBA known. And as much as the media wants to shove it down your throat, nobody gives a fuck about the WNBA.
Well, here's the thing: when the Lynx were winning their championships, they had a squad.
Yeah.
They had a squad. They had Maya Moore, but they had Lindsay Whalen. They had others. They had a squad.
The center, what was her name? The really good
Fowles?
center, really Fowles, Cynthia Fowles. Was she the?
Cynthia
No.
Fowles, yeah.
Yeah, but no one cares about WNBA basketball.
No.
That's why the argument that the women basketball players should make as much as the NBA players is dumb because
Well, if that's going to
apples,
happen,
it's apples to oranges because the NBA generates was it like $9 billion a year,
Mhm.
whereas it costs the NBA $45 million to run the WNBA. The WNBA makes $30 million. So the NBA loses $15 million every year
and they
on
don't.
the-
I don't think
on
they.
the WNBA, which is why
Mhm.
if you look at the owners of the WNBA teams, they're the same people who own the NBA teams because
Yeah,
they know. Yeah,
because if Laura and A-Rod took over the Timberwolves, they'd also own the Lynx.
yeah. So,
Own the Lynx.
so I'm just when it comes to economics, like if you're in the same position and you do the same thing, whether you're a man or woman, you should get the same as long as it's the money, the income is the same. But when you have an income disparity like that, like the women, like if a women's team was making more than the men than that, but I'm going on.
But the league also doesn't put as much effort into promoting it as they do.
Well, if more, do you realize that the audience for the WNBA is 70% men?
I didn't know that.
Women don't even support the WNBA. So that's basically when someone said the Minnesota has a championship in the last 10 years because of the Lynx. Basically, it doesn't matter because the WNBA really doesn't matter to 90% of the population.
It's if you want to see basketball, it's basketball.
Right. I think the Minnesota men's hockey team winning the championship in college would mean more to the state of Minnesota than the
It would if the Golden Gophers won the national championship in hockey. Hell yeah, it's the state of hockey. I mean, as soon as kids are able to stand and walk, they're put skates on them and they put them out there on the ice.
You know? Yeah, George, my basketball team is the Hawks, so my basketball team ain't much better than the T-Wolves.
No, my hockey team didn't even make the playoffs this year.
So yeah, it's supply and demand basically.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's why women supermodels make 3 times as much as men supermodels.
Yeah.
So after the Dallas game, was the Bears game.
National television, Sunday Night Football, Vikings 48, Bears 22.
Yep.
That was a game where
24-0 halftime.
At the end of the game, Dwayne Rudd picked up the 94-yard fumble and didn't put it. He stopped at the goal line, and then when a Bear got close, he jumped in the end zone. It was a taunt, but the Bears never forgot that. They never forgot that with Rudd.
Yeah. So it was 27-0 at halftime.
Okay.
So scoring was Moss 6-yard pass from Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
Leroy Hoard 24-yard pass from Cunningham.
Leroy Hoard caught a pass. Wow.
Two Gary Anderson field goals.
Okay.
21 seconds left in the second quarter. Randy Moss 3-yard pass from Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Bears got their first touchdown. Bobby Ingram 47-yard pass from Steve Sandstrom.
Wow. Sandstrom was the quarterback.
Yes.
And Bobby was a wide receiver.
Randy Moss 34-yard touchdown from Cunningham. Edgar Bennett 5-yard rush.
Mm-hmm.
Leroy Hoard says
Edgar Bennett, the former Packer.
Leroy Hoard says I'll do you 3 yards better. 8-yard rush.
Okay.
And then it was the 94-yard fumble return for Dwayne Rudd. And then Steve Sandstrom had a 4-yard run.
Okay. So we had already clinched the division. I think we clinched the division that night.
Well, yeah, considering the only team that was even good, that was the Packers, and they already had 5 losses at this point.
Yeah, so we clinched the division. And then the next week we played Baltimore.
Let me see. The next game was Baltimore 38-28. was the
You
final.
know, and that game, Minnesota was losing.
After the first quarter.
Yeah, they gave up a kick return for a touchdown and a punt return, didn't they?
So the scoring was Gary Anderson, a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Harris, 95-yard kickoff return.
Okay.
Gary Anderson, field goal. Patrick Johnson, 97-yard kickoff return.
2 kickoff returns.
And then David Palmer, 88-yard kickoff return.
Yep, I remember that.
Then Gary Anderson, field goal. Randy Moss, 17-yard pass. Gary Anderson, field goal. Gary Anderson, field goal. Chris Carter, 11-yard pass. Floyd Turner, 42-yard pass from Jim Harbaugh. Gary Anderson, 20-yard field goal. Priest Holmes, 2-yard rush.
Okay, so we played Harbaugh in Chicago in 95. Then he went to Indianapolis. We played Harbaugh in 97 with Indianapolis. So Harbaugh was in Baltimore in 98.
Yes.
And then he went to the Chargers in 99. Who did he play with in 2000? I can't remember if he played at all. Wow.
Eric Rhett was a running back.
And Eric Rhett was one of those. He was Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay drafted him.
Yeah. So the Jim Harbaugh, Priest Holmes, Eric Rhett, Floyd Turner, Eric Green, James Rowe, Roosevelt Potts.
Okay.
Those were the only people who had stats for the Baltimore. See, leading rusher was Charles Evans.
No way. Charles Evans was the leading rusher?
That's got to be. I think they might have flipped him.
Hold on.
Leroy Hoyt at 20. It says Evans had 26 for 68, and then Leroy Hoyt had 4 for 8. I think they put those in the wrong spot.
Leroy Hoard, 26 for 68.
I think they put him in the wrong spot because
Yeah,
Charles Evans never carried the ball 26 times in his life.
No. Charles Evans was very seldom on the field.
But the long was only 14 for Hoard, so it wasn't like they set the world on fire.
Exactly.
Randy Moss had 19 targets, but only had 6 receptions.
Teams are starting to figure him out. But you know what? It's Baltimore. They still had the beginning of that defense.
Yeah, the defense for Baltimore was Rob Burnett, James Jones,
Okay.
the Goose, Tony Zergus, the Goose, Rob McCrary, Peter Boulware, Ray Lewis, Darren's brother Jamie, Rod Woodson, Dwayne Starks, Stephen Moore, and Ralph Staten.
See, that was the begin. That's almost that defense that won in 2000.
Yeah. I don't think Ralph Staten was a starter on that team. I think somebody else was a starting safety, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the next week we played Jacksonville.
Was that like the 51 to something win?
We beat them 50-10. Brunell didn't play. It was Jonathan Quinn. I remember that much.
So it was 50-10. I think we were, you know what? I think we went to visit. Was this the? Did they beat Jacksonville really bad a couple years later as well?
No, Jacksonville beat us a couple of years later really bad. Jacksonville beat us 33-3 in 2001.
Because I remember we were visiting my mom's lifelong friends, and the Vikings were playing Jacksonville, and it was a blowout. So this must.
That was, you know what? That was when we lost 33-3. Todd Bauman was a starter. That was Denny Green's last game as a Viking head coach.
Yeah, the Vikings won that game though.
Was it Houston? Tennessee is the team they beat. They blew out.
So but it was one of those. But so this was Sunday before Christmas. Tom Coughlin was the head coach. The Jacksonville was 10-5.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know why Brunell didn't play. Was Brunell still with him?
Jonathan Quinn was the starting quarterback.
Yeah, Quinn started, but I know Brunell went to the Redskins,
right?
but I think he was with them that year.
Well, there's no way in hell that the Jacksonville.
No, Brunell was with them. Brunell
Yeah,
was he was with the
Yeah,
Jaguars.
there was no way in hell that the Jaguars would have been that good with Quinn
Exactly.
as their starter.
Exactly.
That whole year.
Yep. And then they ended the season in Tennessee against that was the last game of the Oilers.
Yes.
The next year they became the Tennessee Titans, but that was their last game as the Houston/Tennessee Oilers. And we beat them national TV on a Saturday, 26-16. Only thing I remember about the game was one of the Oiler linemen getting ejected from the game for punching Jerry Ball in the groin.
Yeah. So let me go over the touchdowns of the Jacksonville game real quick. The scoring for the Jacksonville game. Gary Anderson, 2 field goals to start the game. Andrew Glover, 13-yard pass from Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Hollis, field goal. Randy Moss, 43-yard pass. Andrew Glover, 14-yard pass. Chris Carter, 1-yard pass. Gary Anderson, 44-yard field goal. Another Jimmy Hitchcock interception return, 30 yards.
Damn, that's like 4 in a year.
Charles Evan, 1-yard rush. Pete Mitchell, 1-yard rush.
Okay.
1-yard pass.
Okay.
So, yeah, and that was, I think Jacksonville had Minnesota actually held the time of possession in that game.
Okay. I remember that was a Saturday game. So, and then we had the week off and watched. I think the Packers got eliminated wild card weekend.
So then let me get caught up here. You jumped ahead of me, Tony. So it was the last game in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vikings safety McNair penalized for intentional grounding in the end zone was their first score.
Okay.
Al Del Greco then kicked the field goal.
Al Del Greco was their kicker?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Gary Anderson came back with his own field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Al Del Greco, another field goal. Eddie George, 2-yard rush. Gary Anderson, 23-yard field goal. Randy Moss, 5-yard pass. Al Del Greco, another field goal. Chris Carter, 38-yard pass. And then Gary Anderson keeping in the field goal.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
Al Del Greco.
Time possession again. Yeah, Al Del Greco is a hell of a golfer, too.
Jeez. Former Packer.
Steve McMahon and Steve Matthews were the 2 quarterbacks for the Oilers that day.
Mm.
Kevin Dyson. What is Kevin Dyson? He was the last receiver taken in the 98 draft before Moss.
And he didn't do crap in his NFL career.
He did absolutely nothing.
Absolutely not a damn thing. God. Oh, man.
Yeah,
So
that was definitely, when you talk about a bust,
that was him.
especially when you have someone like Moss who was taken behind you.
Yeah.
That's definitely a bust pick.
Yeah, that team had 9 Pro Bowlers that year, too.
Yeah, that Tennessee, they were only 8-8.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings had 9 Pro Bowlers that year.
Jeff Fisher, 8-8. That's what he's known for.
And then he went to the Super Bowl the next year. It's amazing what happened in a year.
Yeah. So their roster was not that bad. So their quarterback was McNair, Eddie George, Kevin Dyson, Yancey Thigpen were the receivers. Frank Wycheck and Jackie Harris were the tight ends.
Yeah.
Brad Hopkins, Bruce Matthews, Mark Stepnoski.
Oh, they had Stepnoski. Okay.
Jason Lehman and John Runyon. That's a pretty
good
good
offensive line. I think Runyon ended up in Philly or
yeah. But then the defense was Pratt Lyons. I do not remember him at all.
Who?
Pratt Lyons.
Don't remember him.
Gary Walker, Josh Evans, James Robinson, Eddie Robinson, Joe Bowden, Lonnie Martz, Bernard Walker, Daryl Lewis, Bain Bishop, and Steve Jackson. So
the next year they drafted Curse.
my guess is their defense. They did a lot of free agent signings and got draft picks in the defense.
Well, they got Javon Curson next year.
Yeah, because that defense is trash, but the offense was good. So.
Yep. Yeah, they got Javon Curson next year.
Okay, so as you say, that was the last regular season game, and of course, back the Vikings had a bye,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't have to play the wild card. And then the first playoff game was against the Cardinals, and it was 41-21.
Jake Plummer and the Cardinals.
So in the playoffs, the Vikings rolled past the Cardinals 41-21. They came into the Metrodome heavy favorite against the Falcons, who finished 14-2, leading 20-7 just before halftime. The Vikings controversially called a deep pass play on third down, which led to it was not controversial. It's what the Vikings did.
That's what they did.
Which led to a Cunningham fumble deep in Minnesota territory shortly after the Falcons scored to cut the lead 20-14. The Vikings went on again, leading 27-20 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and had a chance to potentially put the game out of reach with the field goal. However, Gary Anderson, who had gone 35 for 35 in the regular season, missed a 39-yard attempt. At least it was 39 and not fucking 22. He pulled it left. With multiple defensive injuries for the Vikings, the Falcons marched down the field. Yeah.
In the Arizona game, how did you get to Atlanta?
Well, this is just a postseason summary.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm not so for the game summary for that's weird. They usually don't. That's weird. They usually have the whole full game rundown for me. All right, so
I know Robert Griffin had 2 interceptions. I remember that. 2 interceptions against Arizona.
Okay, so they do actually have the play-by-play for the playoff games.
You can actually find that on YouTube also.
Yeah, it was Chris Jackie kicks off 68 yards, returned to David Palmer. They couldn't have an incomplete pass. The false start by Todd Susie. Yeah,
that's the one. Stussy jump false start.
Yeah.
Stussy, and then they got in a huddle, and Christie punched him in the face mask.
Sounds like something Christie would do.
Yeah, he punched him in the face mask. Basically told him to get his head out of his ass. I actually have that. They had that. NFL put out that DVD years ago, that DVD set of the 5 greatest Viking games, and that playoff game was on there.
So they have a game information about the Falcons game, but they did not do a write-up on the Arizona game.
Oh, okay.
So when you go to game information, it just talks about the scoring.
Right.
And then on the Pro Football Reference, they usually don't do game write-ups.
Right.
But they have the play-by-play.
George, we got Jeff Christie as a free agent. I don't know who drafted him. Might have been Pittsburgh, but we got him as a free agent, and then he came in as a guard. We moved him to center when we lost Kurt Loudermilk, and we lost Adam Schreiber also.
Kurt Loudermilk was a 4th round, I think.
Loudermilk was 3rd or 4th, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones on that DVD collection were the 87 playoff game against the Niners, the wild card game against the playoff game with the Cardinals, most of the Childress's games, Adrian Peterson's game, 296, and Childress winning the division against the Giants in like 08 or 09. I have to look, George. I'd have to look and see. It's somewhere in my DVD collection, which is in a drawer. But yeah. So I mean, it was a good year except for that Atlanta game. And I'll tell you what, that game.
Christie was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, 91st overall.
Oh, he was Arizona. Okay.
Yep. He was cut by the team and would miss the entire 92 season. He was signed by the Vikings in 93.
Yep, 93. And he was starting in 94. Yep, he was starting. Matter of fact, Christy, if I'm right, I want to say Christy, Randall McDaniel, Todd Stussy went to the Pro Bowl along with Randall, Robert, Randy, and Chris. Gary Anderson went to the Pro Bowl. What is that? It's like 7. And then John Randall and Eddie McDaniel on defense. We only had 2 players on defense go to the Pro Bowl that year. And then Eddie Mack didn't play because Eddie Mack got hurt in the championship game. So.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to find. Let me see.
I might have it. Hang on.
So this is broken down by year. See, I'm curious now.
Okay, I got it. Gary Anderson, Chris Carter, Jeff Christie, Randall McDaniel, Ed McDaniel, Randall McDaniel, Randy Moss, John Randall, Robert Smith, Todd Stussy. I was right.
See, and that is why books will always be better than the internet for information. Because you ain't got to search for it in a book.
It's also the 1999 media guide.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of media guides. I got like I have to show you a picture of all the books I got for football. It's ridiculous. Yeah, that's the one I got.
So the scoring, let me go back. All right, so next game. So the scoring for the playoff game was the Leroy Horde 1-yard rush.
Okay.
Andrew Glover 15-yard pass from Cunningham.
Okay.
Gary Anderson 34-yard field goal. So it's 17-0.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Bates a 1-yard run for the Cardinals.
Oh my God! Did you say Mario Bates?
Mario Bates. Leroy Horde,
former Saint. Oh my God!
Yeah, Leroy Horde 16-yard pass, so it's 24-7. Mario Bates 1-yard run. Gary Anderson 20-yard field goal. Randy Moss 2-yard pass. Mario Bates 1-yard rush.
Oh, for God's sakes!
And Leroy Horde 6-yard rush.
So was either Mario Bates or Leroy Horde scoring touchdowns?
Pretty much.
I know Jake Plummer was a quarterback for the Cardinals.
Jake Plummer, Adrian Morrell.
Okay, former
Mario
Jet.
Bates. Mario Bates had 4 carries for 3 yards, 3 touchdowns. I would be pissed if I was Adrian Morrell.
Who was there? Who were their wide receivers?
Rod Moore, the guy who played what's his name in
he was a Jet.
The
Cuba Gooding.
Jerry Maguire, all the highlights of the Arizona Cardinals
they were Rob Moore.
Rod Tidwell was Rob Moore.
Yep, they were Rob Moore.
Larry Centers, one of the greats. I think he's very underrated. Frank Sanders, Eric Metcalf, another guy who was underrated.
Eric Metcalf, former Falcon and Brown.
Yep, Chris Gadney and Johnny McWilliams.
You know what's ironic about Eric Metcalf playing with the Cardinals? His dad.
Yeah, his dad.
His dad was Terry Metcalf, who was a Cardinal.
Was his dad better?
I'm gonna say they were probably equal.
Okay.
Terry, for his time, he was an all-purpose back. He didn't stay in St. Louis because of money.
Yeah, he was a Cardinals version of Foreman, just not as good.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, he could have been like an all-pro too, but unfortunately, you had Chuck, Walter, Dorsett, and he had Jim Otis who ran next to him. So, but Terry was good. Eric was good too. Hell of a kick returner. He was kind of like that David Palmer type of player.
Yeah.
That's how Cleveland used him when he was there.
Okay. So now the part nobody wants to talk about, but we have to because this is Vikings vintage. The 16-1 Vikings boasted the league's first post-merger 500-point offense since the 83 Redskins were heavily favorites in the Metrodome. Raced out to 27 lead in the second quarter off two Randall Cunningham touchdowns, one rushing and a throw to Moss, of course. But yeah, at the end of the first half, Chris Chandler found Terrence Mathis for a 14-yard score. After a Morton Anderson field goal made it 20-17 in the third, the Vikings moved back out to a 10-point lead on another Cunningham TD. Just
That was
Matthew Hatchett. In the final 10 minutes of regulation, the Falcons were forced to turn the ball over on downs. But the Vikings fumbled it right back, and Anderson kicked another field goal for a 27-20 lead. In the final 4 minutes, Gary Anderson, who had not missed a field goal all season, shanked a 39-yarder to give the Falcons a chance. Chandler led the Falcons downfield and connected with Mathis in the end zone with 49 seconds remaining. The Vikings got the ball. In overtime, but Eugene Robinson stopped a deep pass to Moss, and the Falcons got it back on a punt. Chandler led the Falcons downfield again, and Anderson nailed a 38-yard field goal at 11:52 in the extra quarter.
Yeah, there's blame to go all the way around there for that game.
For the season, Cunningham at 3,700 yards, 34 passing touchdowns, which now seems like that's just a regular.
That's average.
But by 98, that was big.
Yeah.
Rushing yards, Smith at 1,187. Leroy Horde had the rushing touchdowns though with 9. Receiving yards, Moss 13. Receiving touchdowns 17. I think that's still a record.
Mm-hmm.
Points, Anderson 164. Kick return yards, David Palmer had over 1,000 kick return yards.
Yep.
He also had 289 punt return yards. Ed McDaniel led the team in tackles. John Randall had 10.5 sacks. Jimmy Hitchcock had 7 interceptions. And Ed McDaniel and John Randall each had 3 forced fumbles. Best performance, Randall Cunningham, 442 yards, first Green Bay. Randy Moss, 3 touchdowns, 163 against Dallas.
Yeah.
So they were first in passing offense. They were 11th in rushing offense. They were second in total offense.
Defense wasn't that good, though.
Their passing defense was 19th. The rushing defense was 11th for 13th overall.
Yeah, so they're average.
Awards and records. Cunningham, Burt Bell Award. He also was the Miller Lite MVP of that year because I remember going to – because Super Bowl was in Miami that year. I still went to the Super Bowl festivities. And the amount of respect I got going to that for wearing my Viking gear, people were like, man, it must be hard for you to wear Vikings, be a Vikings fan, coming here. I said, well, how many times do you get the chance to go to like a Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
The Vikings became just the third team to post a 15-1 win-loss record since the implementation of the 16-game schedule in 1978. They joined the 49ers and the Chicago Bears, but became the first of those teams to fail to win Super Bowl. To this day, the only teams to complete a 15-1 season or better are the 84 49ers, the 85 Bears, the 98 Vikings, the 2004 Steelers, the Patriots, who, obviously went undefeated in the regular season.
What were the 2004 Steelers?
Are they with 15-1? I think they were the 2011 Packers, the 2015 Carolina Panthers. Only the 49ers and Bears capped their seasons with the Super Bowl victory.
Damn. No, George Randall came to us in 97.
Yeah. So out of all the teams that have gone 15-1, the first 2 teams that did it are the only 2 to win.
Yeah, San Francisco and Chicago.
While the Packers in 2011 were the only ones to go 15-1 and not win a playoff game.
I know.
The Vikings' high-powered offense set a record which stood until 2007 season for the most points scored in a season. They eclipsed the 93 Redskins, who scored 541. The Patriots, obviously, in 2007 with Moss, broke the record.
Yeah, broke that record.
And in 2013 is the all-time scoring record. 606 points by the 2013 Broncos. So that is the '98 season in a nutshell. And then once again, it ends the way the all Viking seasons end.
Yep, heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak.
Yeah, the Steelers lost to the Patriots in the championship game, but who didn't lose to Tom Brady and the Patriots back then?
Yes, back then because they were.
Yeah, and then Packers lost. Was the Giants loss, right?
Yeah, that was the Giants. That was Eli.
Eli Manning beat the Packers 15-1.
Eli owned two teams. He owned the Packers and he owned the Patriots.
Yep.
Everybody else he sucked, but he owned those two teams.
Yeah.
He owned them.
Yeah, he was he wasn't laying bricks, he was a marble maker.
Masonry. He was a masonry.
He did marble countertops.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess that's considered masonry, but that's what he was doing. He was doing marble countertops.
Yeah, he had a business in Vegas. He was done with football.
Well, because he went to UNLV.
Yeah.
So he's from Vegas, right?
Yeah, and plus they're always building up Vegas. So
yeah,
he was gonna.
He probably still owns that business.
I think so. He gets a nice little chunk of change from the NFL.
Well, yeah, he played 10 seasons, right? Was it 8? No, was it 8?
You only got to play. You got to play 7 to get a pension.
Play 7 to get the permanent. 5 years is lifetime health care.
Yeah,
but 7 is the pension, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So a lot of those old school players missed that. I mean,
well, they didn't have it back then.
Well, they got grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Too
late.
Yeah, that generation is only generation really left is kind of like the one before us.
Yeah.
But they're slowly passing away too. So, I mean, the Viking that first Viking Super Bowl team, there's very few of those guys that are still with us. So,
hey, is Weekend at Bernie's considered alive? Because that dude had a hell of a time being dead.
Yeah, for somebody that was dead, they had a hell of a damn weekend. Jesus.
But hey, if you're breathing assisted or unassisted, if you're breathing and you're above ground, you're alive.
Any day above ground is a good day.
And I just hope that I'm not 50 yet, so I still have time. But Tony, I'm getting a little worried about Tony.
You're worried about Tony. Tony's worried about Tony. Tony's worried too because
I'm worried about George. I'm not Bob, T-Bass. I'm worried about us all.
Yeah, I mean,
if McCarthy fails, it'll be
on DLC and Kwesi.
Yep.
And more than KLC because he was brought here to get that quarterback in the future, and he didn't do it.
If McCarthy fails, the Vikings will do what they always do. They'll get a free agent quarterback.
Mm-hmm. But it'll be another head coach. It won't be KLC, and it won't be Kwesi.
Oh, well, we finally got the question answered.
Oh, you're in our boat, dude. You're in our boat.
Yeah, Wolf Zicky is starting to look rough.
Zicky doesn't travel to the games as much as he used to. He's damn near 80.
I think Mark almost lives in Minnesota pretty much.
Mark is running the team.
Yeah.
They were both absentee owners up until all the BS with Zimmer and Spielman. And then they decided, they just built a damn hotel. You can stay in one of those rooms if it's really bad.
I think Mark's got the penthouse on the top of the hotel.
Oh, it must be rough.
So
must be rough.
Yes, I in that situation, if McCarthy fails, Kwesi would be the least because I'm sure KOC told him
That falls on that
I
was
want two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Either one of them. I'll take either one of them. I like one a little bit better, but I like them both. I guarantee that's the conversation. I like Drake May a little bit more than I like JJ, but I'll take either one of them. I'll be happy with either one. That was probably the conversation that they had.
Yeah, it's but if it doesn't work, it falls on both of them.
Yeah, but mostly on KOC.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see because I don't know. It's hard to say if Sam Darnold plays above average. I don't think JJ sees the field this year.
Okay, put it this way: if Sam Darnold plays above average this year and the Vikings are winning, it's a good dilemma. But you're going to have to play JJ eventually. So
unlike the Falcons, who took an old ass rookie quarterback, who if he sits for 3 years, the dude's going to be 30. Vikings, JJ is only 21. He just turned 21 like a month ago.
yeah. And with Penix, he's also got that injury issue too. And as you get older, that shit pops up. Yeah, I
understand what the Falcons did, but take a guy who's younger at least. Because
I understand. I get to thinking.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was Penix, and Penix, I mean, but you know what? Atlanta's got this whole, well, guess what? He's a left-handed quarterback and he's a brother. Michael Vick 2.0. So Michael Vick was healthy.
He's not Michael Vick.
No. He's a better passer than Vick.
Yeah, but Vick was a game changer.
Yeah, but Vick, when it came to
come on, don't you see the highlight that they showed every time they show a
all I got to do is turn on a friggin' Madden game and everybody's like, oh my God, Michael Vick.
Well, no, plus every time they talk about Michael Vick, what highlight did they show?
The Viking game.
Yeah, the overtime run where he ran for a touchdown.
It was the Vikings. Who doesn't have a highlight reel against the Vikings besides me or you? And if we played, we'd have one.
Another thing about it is that every time they show a highlight of a player, they always find a way to get the Vikings in that highlight reel.
Well, you know who told me? I told you what Bob Lertzma told me, right? Bob Lertzma, for being a backup defensive tackle, he's in a lot of NFL highlight films. Every time you see a great highlight of a former player, 9 times out of 10, Bob Lertzma's in that. He's all over Super Bowl history. I mean, it's Larry Zonka running him over, but he's in there.
We don't. This is, like I said, this is all speculation because they're never going to tell you how high they thought about one player more than another. They're never going to tell you that. So you could say they could have told the reporter that there wasn't much difference between Penix and McCarthy. I think there was. I don't think Penix was as high. But
I think they had of all the. I'm going to be honest with the quarterbacks they had. I think they had McDaniels. They had McDaniels up there. I think May was distant.
I don't think they wanted an old quarterback. That's why I don't think they wanted Penix or Nix.
Well, and I'll tell you what, May. I mean,
everybody will tell you that May has the best talent of all the quarterbacks taken. He has the size.
But going to New England,
he has the size.
Throw too.
I'm just saying he has the size. He has the speed. He's got the arm strength. He's everything that.
We've heard that. You know what? We've heard that about so many quarterbacks before them that sucked.
Well, Ryan Leaf had more talent than Peyton Manning.
How wrong
Peyton Manning didn't have the arm that Ryan Leaf had. Ryan Leaf was more athletic than Peyton Manning.
Ryan Leaf didn't have the brain that Peyton Manning has.
No.
God.
Andrew Luck wasn't the strongest arm quarterback. Wasn't the most athletic quarterback. But what the hell was he? He was smart. The
O-line, I think they'll wait till the first to figure it out. Bradbury may be part of those cuts too.
Yeah.
What is better, run protection or pass? Well, put it this way. That's why Dalton Risner is not here, which I think the Vikings going to take a little different philosophy here. He can't run block. He can pass block decently. He's a terrible run blocker.
This will tell you the type of player he is. A leading team to sign Risner, Dolphins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's we'll see what happens, but yeah, this is a crapshoot. I mean, everybody's going to be watching us, but the team everybody's going to be watching is the Falcons, unfortunately, because Kirk's getting guaranteed money coming off a major injury, being backed up by a top 10 draft pick.
If we all know Cousins can't handle pressure,
and Cousins can't handle pressure. He proved that when he started bitching.
Oh, they didn't tell me they were.
Yeah, when his agent put it out there that they didn't consult him, it's like, do they have to consult you? This isn't Minnesota. Nobody's coddling you in Atlanta, buddy.
Let's just say the Chiefs did the same thing. You know what Mahomes would say? Why are you drafting a quarterback when you got me, and I'm going to prove to you how bad of a pick it was?
Yeah, but Mahomes has got 3 Super Bowl rings.
Right. No, but I'm just saying, or someone with that. I'm just talking about the difference in the mentality between Cousins and Mahomes.
Well, first of all, these players got to realize no matter how good you are, you're expendable. They don't have to keep you.
I think the only way the Chiefs get rid of Mahomes is really late in his career. He's like falling over himself.
Well, yeah, but if it's late in his career, they've already got however ring championships out of him. They can let him go. It's like, oh my God, no, because they didn't learn from Childress.
Well, they kind of did. When Childress was here, he had all the power.
Yeah, they took that power away from him, but
because Moss would have finished his career with Minnesota if Brad Childress was not the head coach in 2010, right? Or if Brad Childress didn't have the power, because if Brad Childress would have went to the GM and said, I need to cut Moss because I don't like him, the GM would have said, fuck you, deal with it.
But instead, Moss got him fired.
So, because when he cut Moss, the Wills finally had Moss back, which is what they wanted.
They want him. They didn't want to give him up in the first place. When they got him back, that meant that right away, cha-ching. That's what they thought of. And when he cut him, it's like, okay, this guy. Well, then, and also the weekend they cut him, the day they cut him, the Vikings had lost a day earlier to the Packers, 31-3 or something like 34-3. It was an ass kicking.
It was an ugly game.
It was ugly, and
people say it was because of the restaurant quality of food, but from my understanding, that restaurant's not very good.
A buddy of mine what the restaurant did was they put out the same spread that they did for the Vikings, right, for lunch.
Yeah.
And my buddy went there. He's like, dude, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, wow, really?
And these guys don't eat like at McDonald's. They eat.
No, it was catered from a restaurant. It was.
Right. No, but I'm saying is when you're Moss's level, you don't eat. You have like your personal chef. You ain't doing
Big Macs and fries.
Yeah. Yeah, you're eating like at Chris's Steakhouse and shit.
Yeah, you're eating at when you come to town. You're going to Murray's here in Minneapolis. It's exactly.
Or what's that one place that Kurt didn't want to go to Murray's? He went to the other place.
Which one did he go to? Because usually we take everybody to Murray's.
But he didn't want to go. He went someplace else.
No, that sounds like Kurt. See, right there, I wouldn't have signed him.
I know it's not that pizza place he did the commercials for.
Oh God, Pizza Ranch. And that's a freaking pizza buffet. That's what that is.
So it's like a CC's.
Yeah, it's like a CC's. It's a buffet, but they have other stuff there besides pizza. But yeah, it's a Pizza Ranch.
Yeah, I know he didn't go to. Let me see.
Unfortunately, folks, we're not going to get an ownership change. The Wilfs are going to own this team probably for the rest of our lifetime.
Yeah, CBS Sports. Vikings ditching steakhouse trip to Kirk Cousins free agent visit because of his special diet.
Special diet.
Let's see. For months now, there's all this talk about him signing. Let's see. Where did they take him?
Kirk had a special diet?
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Let me see. I'm reading the story.
Yeah, Sarah, we're still here.
It talks about Zimmer being a defensive guy and didn't want to overpay for a quarterback.
Well, now you look back in hindsight.
He's like, it's not hard to imagine Zimmer, a defensive guy who made it clear that he doesn't want to lose the team's identity to the expense of overpaying a quarterback, rolling his eyes when he finds out he has to relocate to a different restaurant to accommodate the new quarterback's special diet. Oh God, I'm glad this clown. I'm glad he's gone.
He was more of a pain in the ass than people realize.
Yeah.
He really was.
So what restaurant did he? It's for months now. There's been the Vikings would select, whatever. The Jets were certainly in. I wish, but man, if he would have went to the Jets, who knows?
He went to the Jets. He would have retired.
Yeah.
New York press would have ate him alive.
So where did they take him?
Well, if they didn't take him to Murray's, he's got what is his special?
Well, they didn't take him to Manny's. It was seafood. Let me see.
They took him to a seafood house.
Brady like that. Tom Brady. You just get the ahi tuna and the wild salmon. Okay.
Where the hell? Oh my God.
Let me see. The Vikings about to invest $84 million in him if he showed up looking fat. Ordered 8 beers, pounded a 40-ounce T-bone.
If he did that, I'd have had more respect for him.
Doesn't say where they took him though. What kind of story is this? Tom Pelissero. You got to put the story. You got to put the name of the restaurant.
Is that Pelissero?
Uh,
He's not gonna.
no.
He's not gonna put the name of the restaurant.
Will Brinson. But it doesn't say. It's another fancy restaurant, but it's not Manny's.
Murray's.
It says Manny's in the story.
No, they go to Murray's downtown.
It's not Manny's Steakhouse. It's Murray's.
It's Murray's Steakhouse.
Let me see.
Yeah, I think it's Murray's they go to. We do have it is Manny's, Sarah? It's downtown Minneapolis, right? Because Murray's is downtown Minneapolis too. I think Manny's in the Fauché. It's got to be Manny's then. That's over in the Fauché Tower, I believe, if it's still open. Well, Manny serves seafood.
So no one does anybody in the chat remember what restaurant he went to?
Sarah says it's Manny's.
Well, no, he didn't go to Manny's. That's where they take all the free agents. He didn't go there. He went someplace else.
Probably Pizza Ranch. Well, then I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, let me see.
Well, hey, we need to wrap this up here.
Yeah, this is aggravating me.
Are we doing Friday? This Friday?
It's up to you.
I'm game. If you want to do this Friday, we got a lot to talk about.
Sarah, are you going to be here?
Sarah, are you up for? Yes, Sarah was probably Perkins. Are you up for Friday, Sarah? George? Anybody? Sarah's in. And I'm sure Zoe will be in. And I was on Zoe's show tonight. Shout out to Zoe.
Yeah, I didn't do it after doing the 7 hours on Saturday.
Yep. Next week is the schedule, folks. I'm hearing it's going to be on the 9th. So that's when the schedule's released. So, and I already made my prediction. First game of the year, prime time, home to the Falcons.
Well, it's not going to be the Thursday night game because that's going to be.
That's always the Super Bowl champion. That's usually the choice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I will figure this out, and it's going to drive me crazy.
Well, tell us on Friday.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do.
That way we can scream and moan, and we can hear what Sarah has to say about it.
I will find it. I will find out.
Okay. But once again, everybody, thank you for watching. You guys have been loyal. We've still got plenty of topics to talk about. We're still taking suggestions also. We covered 98. We're definitely going to cover 75. That's even
and we still have
breaker.
we still got 01. We still got 09.
We still got 08. We still got 2017. We've got a lot of heartache to still talk about. So
2010 we kind of covered.
Yeah, 2010. I mean, 2010 was the year that they fell apart.
Yeah,
And,
so
and Childress got fired, which was for me 5 years too late.
Yeah.
I don't even think he should have had the gig. But
if
yeah,
you guys have any suggestions, just let us know.
and we're open to all your suggestions. Ask us questions. Once again, thank you, everybody. You got anything, Catch?
I'm losing my voice, and I need my voice for the work next 2 days. So
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
So Friday night, I might need an assist more from you and Sarah because my voice may not be that good. So
Okay, yeah, we'll take over.
yeah.
And we'll put the link up there. We'll have Zoe on. We'll have
I mean, I'll be here. I'll talk. I just probably won't talk as much. So
we'll have D Woods will probably chime in. I'm sure Steve might even chime in.
Yeah.
So the Packer backer. That's what I'm just going to call him, the Packer.
Well, maybe Nug will join for the Lions.
Yeah. We still don't have a Bears person.
No.
What does that tell you?
All right, guys. As you can probably tell, my voice is going. So
Have a good one, everybody. Take care.
yeah, thank you guys for joining. George, thank you for the donos tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, George. Much appreciated.
Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, honoring the name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight.